what, 2 or 3 days. So it's a very interesting discussion.
I, I find as an American, it's kind of a bizarre concept because it's practically unimaginable that the U.S. That a U.S. president would resign. So it has a weird
Happy
flavor.
Thursday, Tyler, BB,
Likewise, May.
Tina, Jeff. Yeah,
And
we had Paul Davidson in the other room listening to us. He's chilling in the audience listening to Cal Patel sharing some thoughts about
I,
Boris Johnson.
yeah, I imagine Cal is a good person to listen to on that topic.
Yeah, he's been really dropping some really interesting perspectives. It's been a really interesting conversation for the past hour or so.
I have right now a Scottish couple staying here at my place, who, by the way, he just proposed a couple hours ago and she accepted, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, give him a
Is
congratulations.
I did, yeah.
Tyler,
is
will
it
you?
is it is it the season to propose now? One of my friend just gave me a text to say I'm a Singaporean girl. She just said that she and the Japanese boyfriend, they know each other through me, that they're getting married. Is it the season to propose now? Love is in
Mm,
the air.
I think I think seasonally, it might be true. It'd be interesting to see if there's stats about that more people propose in summer than in winter. I imagine that's true, just for logistical reasons, like you want to be outside and on a beautiful day and all that.
Oh yes, by the beach, sipping pina colada.
But here, in the lunar calendar, the ghost month is coming. So in the lunar calendar, it's this July. It's the ghost month. So normally, we people don't like to marry in that month.
That's for the old school people, right?
Yeah, of course. But you still have your parents if you believe in that. So normally, people will avoid
Not sure.
that month.
Okay. Oh, then okay. So
Oh,
I guess the Boris Johnson news is dominating the non-tech news headlines today. Obviously,
yeah.
Probably.
Carter is here. Carter.
Hey,
yeah.
Carter
Carl. Hey, Robert.
sound.
What's up?
He's not able to speak until you pronounce his name correctly, Cheryl.
Carter.
He
Carter.
can't.
Carter-san.
Carter sound.
Yeah, he opened his mic.
Yes.
I like that
What's up in
pronunciation,
Paris?
Carlson. Well, he finally caved to pressure, didn't he? I mean, it was always going to happen. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you know
Carl,
what, Tyler? You need this discussion in British accent. Then you
right?
can.
Well, Carl's British, so Carl, what the hell's going on over there on your side
Well,
of the
it's the
pond?
Red Wedding episode of UK politics. It's Game of Thrones. You've got a
Or
shit ton
is
of
it more like X Factor?
MPs leaving all over the place.
Yeah.
The funny ones are the ones accepting promotions and then 24 hours, 40 hours later calling for his resignation, which I
Exactly.
find absolutely hilarious.
And he's
And he's the one
resigning.
who nominated them, right?
He's resigning because he got caught lying about a couple things. One was they were having parties when the rest of the during shutdowns, and then he lied about it, and then he lied about lying about it, and then there was other things that he lied about, and so how does that?
Yeah,
By the way, I
the
got news
most
for you.
recent one
I
was
got news for you. Donald Trump
he
was
appointed a
making
minister. Oh,
Donald Trump
sorry.
was making lies bigger than that on an hourly basis. So why is he resigning?
It just works differently over here. Like, you can get kicked out for. To be fair, Tyler, like, he's lasted a hell of a longer than he should have. Like, it may seem simplistic, the lies that he said, but actually he survived an impressive amount of time, given the
So what
amount
you're
of
saying is you
shenanigans.
don't allow your leaders to lie in the same
Well,
way that America does.
one, yeah, a little bit of that, yes, but two, to be fair, it's more
Integrity.
the party's throwing him under the bus. He's losing the popularist vote, and as such, he is getting thrown under the bus by his own party. So they can elect somebody that's more popularist, so they have a better chance of winning the next election.
59
Yes.
MPs resigned.
Yeah, he has
That
50,
was
Yeah,
right?
significant.
50 ministers
yeah,
resign
record.
on him,
Hang
right?
on,
Okay,
hang on,
can I
hang on.
put my
Hold on.
tinfoil hat on for one
Before
second,
you
Tyler?
can, but
Okay.
let me just finish Carl's point there. Carl, you're implicating that the party is assassinating him politically for their own collective good, as it's sort of a mutiny or something.
It's a combination of both. He's only available to be assassinated because of the mess that he's put himself into because of his lies. But yes,
He screwed himself up. Side down.
yeah, absolutely. And he hired people that he shouldn't have done, and he covered up mistreatment by his ministers and potentially nefarious acts by certain ministers. And he knew about it and ignored it and promoted certain people. And yeah, he just acted in a way that's no longer conducive to them getting re-elected at the next GO.
Ah, got it. Hang on, I just figured it out. What it is he embarrassed the institution, and you guys are actually capable of feeling embarrassment, unlike us Americans.
Bingo.
There it is.
Bingo.
I figured it out. We figured it out because Trump, you can't embarrass him, and nor can, honestly, I think Biden is immune to being embarrassed, and Americans in general are immune to this concept that the rest of the world struggles with called embarrassment or losing face. We have no idea what you guys are talking about when you try and describe that, by the way. It just doesn't compute. We
Well,
just,
we can't spell embarrassment. It's just too long.
maybe that's why we don't understand it,
They
because
have no
we can't spell it.
shame.
It's
Yeah,
it's worth saying that we still have a very similar problem here in the fact that um, our opposing party, Labour, which is the equivalent of the
Republican.
Democrats in the US,
Yep.
they don't, they lose the elections continuously because they're lacking teeth. Our version of our
They
Conservative
also have
Party,
nobody.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
exactly.
they should learn they should learn from, I mean, try the Roger Ailes thing. I mean, Democrats and Labor Party, because some of the people they put up just aren't visibly appealing, and you know that makes a difference too.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I mean. They don't have the teeth. They lose continuously, as opposed to Conservatives winning. Our version of the Democrats, they lose continuously. There's a key difference there.
Okay.
Okay.
I,
Tinfoil
uh,
hat,
yes,
Tyler.
tinfoil
This is
hat, Dr.
what
Frank. Go ahead.
important slog.
Put it on.
He he never said I resign. I put off my morning
Uh-oh.
walk to
Oh,
listen to
boy.
him speak. So he
Oh, boy.
never said I resign, and he is still in office. The end.
Uh-oh, he's
Who's
going to
that?
pull.
Sorry, Trump. Bojo.
Whoa. Didn't they also have a guy yesterday who supposedly resigned, but then it came back that he didn't resign too?
Hmm.
But
Will he
Boris
get
Johnson has
will he get some
definitely
like compensation if he's fired rather than resign?
no. He's definitely agreed to his resignation. He's staying on until they find a replacement, though, because the party can't be leaderless.
Why if they cannot find?
He appointed new cabinet members for the people that left. It's sort of bizarre.
Hey, Carl, don't we remember Belgium went, wasn't it Belgium that went without a leader for about 2 years and did pretty good?
Hmm.
Sorry, I was about to respond and then coughed my guts up. I apologize.
All
So,
right.
Carl, who's gonna be
That cough
who's
was
possible
appropriate.
be to be the next prime minister? I mean, at least he should
Do
be
you know Carl
elected as a
Douglas? He's running.
conservative.
No.
Or maybe Cal Patel.
I'm looking for Nigel
Yeah,
Farage.
I was listening to him say that he'd like to run, and I got extremely excited. Let's push that.
Hey, bring back Nigel Farage, who started the whole thing with Brexit.
Nobody needs Nigel Farage in any position of power at all.
Okay. So, is there anything else happening in the world other than Boris Johnson resigning? But by the way, if you are a company and you have really bad news, right now would be the time to release that, because everyone's focused on Boris Johnson's resignation.
Yes. Less embarrassed.
So CNN's reporting right now, it says live, that the beleaguered UK leader, that's Boris, says he will stay in Downing Street until replacement is found, against wishes of many in his party. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's mostly a saving face thing as well, as opposed to being forced out completely. He can take the slightly more honourable route of saying, "Okay, fine, you want me to go, but I'm going to continue to do the job until a replacement is found. I'm not going to, etc., etc." So, I think a lot of that is saving face for himself.
Do you think they'll pull him out of the office kicking and screaming?
I don't think that would look good for them. I think there's a point where even they realise that that level of dissension doesn't work. We had this with the Labour Party a couple of years back with the whole anti-Semitism thing, and the whole party started eating itself, and it turns everybody off. So I very much doubt they'll drag him out kicking and screaming, but who knows?
Carl, do you think he's waiting until the remodel is done on his personal residence to get donors?
I don't know.
Okay, just real fast. Russian planes strike Snake Island as Ukrainians raise flag on Snake Island. Interesting how that's becoming almost an icon of this whole Russian, invasion. The Snake Island will be remembered in the history books now because of the back and forth on that one. And
Well, people can't they? People can become martyrs and symbols of success and whatnot. So why not a landmark?
yeah, especially with a name and a very easily memorable name like that. Beijing imposes mainland China's first COVID vaccine mandate. Oh wow, I didn't. Okay, FBI and MI5 chiefs both raise alarms over China's unparalleled, unimaginable levels of corporate espionage going on in the West.
That is actually huge. And I mean, they've been talking forever, but for them to have a joint press conference on this is
Yeah,
just
well,
amazing.
this kind of tech related. Top U.S. and British law enforcement officials met with private businesses and academic leaders Wednesday to call attention to what they said is the serious security and economic threat posed by China, which is seeking to steal their intellectual property and influence politics in Western countries. FBI director and MI5 director held the event in London to highlight the joint work by the two security agencies to thwart what they said was the most serious challenge from espionage and hacking by the Chinese government. Beyond scaling of technology, China is now also making moves to shield its economy from any future sanctions should it try to take over Taiwan by force, drawing lessons from Ukraine. Quote, we've seen China looking for ways to insulate their economy against political sanctions, trying to cushion themselves from harm if they do anything to draw the ire of the international community. In our world, we call that kind of behavior a clue, meaning it's a clue that they're preparing to attack Taiwan because they're
I think the
preemptively.
guy is clueless. I mean, there's a thing called planning ahead, right?
That's what he's saying is they're planning ahead.
He's clueless, right? Because he don't do that. That's why he doesn't understand why people are planning ahead.
He says,
Yeah, the planning ahead doesn't need necessarily mean that they'll execute. I think China has more concerns with Beijing, the brain drain, a lot of the. I mean, they're failing at retaining their ports in terms of fiscal power when it's juxtapositioned against a nation because of that. And they're contending with the British now because it seems like they've walked back their promise to London. And so the UK is asking for some conversations around that. I don't think that they can focus on Taiwan now, but I do know that they are planning. And they're planning probably in two phases. One, the long term strategy, and two, the short term in response to America, but not necessarily preemptively.
okay, so there's that on the kind of non tech news front. Singapore executes two drug traffickers despite pleas for clemency, and that we talked about
Yep,
that yesterday, didn't we? That,
Love
yep.
Singapore.
yep,
Love
That's
Singapore.
why.
I
Yep.
love that.
That's why I asked you to remind everybody it's serious business there.
yep. And that's pretty much it in terms of Notable. Oh, it was revealed that Elon Musk has a new set of twins from a senior
An
executive
executive.
at Neuralink.
Nine
He's
kids
now up to
now.
9 children.
And
Yes.
weirdly,
He
twins
alone will
again.
overpopulate the world.
Wait, how
There,
many
there's
kids
there's
does he
two
have?
pre. It's nine in
Elon's
total that we
getting
know of.
around, huh?
Well, but
So
hang
so there's
on,
nine
they're
kids. There's nine
ignoring the
kids that
fact
we
that
know
this
exist.
guy is rolling doubles 3 times, and he's rolled doubles and triples.
Yeah, like holy
IVF,
crap.
Tyler. Tyler,
Intentionally,
yeah,
Tyler.
two of those
No.
instances were IVF.
Efficiency, right? Very efficient.
He's a hybrid.
But it's good because he's leaving behind all the good genes, right? It's good.
That's what he's hoping for, yeah.
They'll certainly be well funded, anyways. He could,
I've got to say that I wonder how much leniency, like for me personally, you don't dip your pen in the company ink, but whatever. I wonder how much leniency his actions would be given if he wasn't as successful as he is. And that I think,
Zero. None.
yeah, and I've always been a massive fan of the progress that has been made, but as him as a person, a lot of these decisions that are coming to light now, if it was anybody else, it would be questionable.
what do you mean?
Exactly.
Like who?
What I'm saying is that
Your average Joe, we'd be
yeah, if
looking
it
at
was an
them as if
average
they're
Joe or if it was some
irresponsible.
This
yeah.
is happening all the time everywhere. No one gives a
Yeah,
shit.
but he's single, right? He can well, have babies with whoever he choose to, right? As long
You
as
Well,
the
don't
other
think there's
party is
any
okay with that.
Carl, clearly
you don't think there's any
you don't watch enough late night TV, like 3 in the morning TV.
He has to babysit the
So
baby.
no.
come spend a week in the U.S. and intentionally stay up past 2 in the morning and turn on the late night TV talk shows, and you will see fathers with the father of 100 children with 20 different women.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. What I'm saying is it's sort of everything that is done is sort of hailed as exceptional and brilliant, and we celebrate everything that he does, and it's just sort of some of this is questionable. No, like I mean, you don't think that having children with a chief, like an executive of one of his companies, is morally questionable, Tyler?
by the way,
Well,
it's not true the CEOs get away with this anymore. So this is no longer true. You could look. The CEO of McDonald's got forced out of his position because of a consensual affair. The CEO of Boeing got forced out of his position because of a consensual affair. Now, 20, 30 years ago, that was different. There was a big scandal with a company called Bendix, and that's a whole different. And that went a different way. But in the last couple of years, since this whole Me Too thing, you're a CEO of a public company, generally you're forced out. I mean, Elon's now an exception if he's not forced out.
That's the point that I'm trying to make. Thank you, Ken. You said it much better than I.
I'm just assuming that he probably has so much legal coverage before he opts to procreate that there's a legal halo over him, so he can go as far as he
hang
wants
on,
to on
hang on, hang
some
on.
reasons.
But
He
is it
and
against
her.
the law? Is it
Hold on.
against the law to have a relationship in the company, or is it a company like regulation kind of thing? So if his company doesn't have that kind
I
of
think it's neither.
regulation,
Actually,
eh,
neither.
right? Neither, right? So it's up to him, right?
My point
He's
is
the
this:
willing party, right?
they share the same. They're registered at the same address. They're cohabitants.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's single, right?
Correct. I think legally he's not married. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it said that at the same time he was
You know
dating
what?
another singer, so they both have these kids at the same time. So he's dating both people. I mean,
He's sleeping with multiple people at this point.
Just
The other
I'm
child,
just
the
trying to remember.
XYZ, whatever, that child was on the cusp of another. He's been doing this in stages, but it is intentional. He said that he wanted to do so.
Hold on. Maybe he's trying to get. He's this is his. He's preparing to colonize Mars. Is what he's doing.
I won't put that past him, actually.
Single handedly.
Well, no. Uh, yeah, not. There's a joke there about single-handedness, but anyway. The tech news. I guess we can get into the big.
But Tyler, before you do, I had a question for Cheryl because
Yeah,
I remember several years ago, Clinton was president. There was some American kid in Singapore put some graffiti on some cars, and they got sentenced to a caning, would leave permanent scars. It was a whole international thing.
Vandalism.
How come all these people committing these big financial crimes are not over in Singapore are not being subject to that? Is that considered a less of a crime than just defacing a car? What
I,
happened
I
in some of the crypto stuff?
I think different crimes will be dealt with differently. But for that case, many years back, because it was vandalism, and vandalism by law is actually, yeah. If you are not over, I think 50 years, so you one of the punishment will be by caning.
No, so what you're telling me is that vandalism is a more serious crime than massive financial fraud. I just wanted to
Oh, not
understand that.
true. It really depends. It depends on on the degree. I'm not sure exactly which case you're talking about, but definitely, it'll be prosecuted accordingly. But I guess commercial crime, I mean financial fraud, may not be under that category of getting caned, but but definitely you'll be penalized. And I think after the recent downfall of the crypto business, for those companies that are registered in Singapore, the government is actually going to put in more so-called stricter regulations to make sure less retail retail investors will be affected.
Yeah, so I just want to add to that, to Ken. The financial crime sentences in Singapore are some of the strictest in the world. It's real prison time, and there's no getting out early for good behavior. So if you're sentenced for, they can be 3 years, 5 years. So there's lots of people who've done financial frauds who are in prisons in Singapore for 5, 10, 15 years, and they're not getting out till that entire term is served.
Yeah, and
They don't.
recently, you remember there is a Singaporean guy who actually fake identity and used the identity of this Riot Game CEO to get AWS and Google Cloud to mine his crypto. He get a 10 years jail time. Is that tough enough for you?
I think, Cheryl, you just explained a wonderful foreign exchange program with the U.S. in cities of San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. Brilliant.
I
You
would
should
love.
keep your police over here.
I would love to see the canings of crypto bros. Actually, that could be a great TV show. And people who get
Oh my
busted,
God, that would be so funny, Tyler. That would be such a reality show to do.
bring it on. If the
The,
more,
Get caned
the,
with
the
Suzu.
yeah,
the island could be in Saudi Arabia or something. So
I wonder if that would give people pause to do crypto scams if they knew they were going to be publicly caned on a popular TV show.
Game of Clowns.
That would be dangerous on
Chain of
Clubhouse considering crypto
chain of
scammers.
thrones or something. Yeah. Okay. So did we do the air horn? We haven't. There it is. Here we go. Welcome, Cal Patel. How did it? I heard your good buddy Boris is resigning. What happened?
Yeah, he's finally decided to uh, uh, accept that he has to resign. But he's still here for a while until autumn, so he's going to hang around until we pick a new prime minister here in the UK. And then there's just a lot of details about
Not
the
until
admin.
we pick a new prime minister, until the Conservative Party picks a new prime
Oh yeah,
minister.
you're right. You're right. The
Exactly.
Conservative Party picks a new prime minister, and they have their own little shenanigans, which Nicholas knows very well. And they'll have their own little uh, election. It's kind of as Boris called it in his speech, Darwinian, which is kind of ironic because that's how he's got to where he is. But anyway, that's very interesting. So yeah, that was
So
breaking news today. And
how can we get these clowns in America to resign? And why don't they?
You have to move the circus.
So accurate.
No, so Tyler, actually, there's a serious answer to your question. We have something similar at the state level. It's not exact. In certain states, you can recall a governor. So essentially, a no confidence vote is a little bit like a recall, but we
Right.
don't have a recall mechanism for president, but we have it for certain governors. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California,
Yeah,
just survived one. He
right.
could have been recalled. Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California because the guy before him got recalled. He
Brown?
was an elected governor, and then it was
Yeah,
Gray
Gray
Davis, and he
Davis.
got
Gray
recalled.
Davis
Yeah,
is
Ray
the one,
Davis.
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Good point.
In a specific case of this case is that the Backbench 1922 committee that governs the Conservative Party has got a new leader being elected, new chairman, and the new chairman can change the rules. So they could remove him more quickly because the previous rules, as you asked me, I think yesterday, says that you cannot have two no confidence votes within 1 year. So the likelihood is they will either change the rules or there'll be an orderly handover as dictated by um, the Conservative Party. So there's your democracy for you.
Okay. So now we go into the tech news headlines for today. The top up is from Bloomberg that Voyager Digital files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New York. Estimated it has more than 100,000 creditors and between a billion and 10 billion in assets. Crypto broker Voyager files for Chapter 11 protection just weeks after getting a lifeline. And this is the continuing drama.
And if you look at the documentation, there's some outstanding. The lifeline may be, a lifeline to save your own skin. If you look at the $375 million that FTX or Alameda is in the hole with these guys on. So there's going to be more information that comes out here.
Tyler, there was an update to that documentation. If you go in a little bit deeper to the filing, one, it was Chapter 11, which basically, and this is going to answer the question that Aram had for me the other day. So, Aram, I was looking up for you some answers. What's happened to the Chapter 11 is that they've actually also, it allows them to be protected to restructure. And what they're doing is that they have three different ways that they're looking to restructure, and I don't have it memorized, but one of the ways that they're looking at too is a combination of returning and supporting the people that did invest into Voyager or did put their money in Voyager, with the possibility of giving common stock shares in Voyager, which means what I believe they're going to do, and my business folks like Ken in the stage would also be able to articulate this better than I could, is it appears that they're using the Chapter 11 as protection to restructure, and as they restructure and they come to the meetings of restructuring, they're going to probably make, in my humble opinion, Voyager a company that would allow them to sort of pivot and go back and continue to do business, but then as a formal company. And then in exchange for some of those people that may think they have lost something at this moment, they may be given the loss in form of shares, because they're going to formalize Voyager as a proper company. That's what they're trying to do,
It
right?
is a company.
But I think the thing
It's
is that
it wouldn't be able to go through Chapter 11 if it wasn't a company. And the reason for FTX and Alameda doing what they're doing is that there is a seniority amongst creditors that starts with your senior secured and your most senior lenders, and it goes all the way down to the equity holders who include Alameda. So part and parcel of all of this is people who are jockeying for seniority in the liquidation. The idea that the company can carry on after basically blowing out all of its depositors' resources is, in my opinion, highly unlikely.
well, actually, Celsius has just managed to pay off 25% of their liquidators. So
But
they
they don't
actually
allow
did.
any withdrawals, so they're paying down, but they're
Yeah, they're
not
paying down what
actually.
they owe. I understand they're paying down
But they're
what they
not.
owe
But they're
to
not going to
people.
survive.
Yeah,
I,
but yeah, I mean, I've actually done a lot of this
yeah,
corporate
that's why
restructuring
I
work. So
asked.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
asked Ken.
So in the case of Celsius, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they filed for bankruptcy yet. They're paying down some debt
No,
creditors
they
now, correct?
didn't.
Okay.
They've just appointed new directors to the board, which,
Oh,
as Ken knows, is the first sign that they're going to put themselves through Chapter 11.
okay, no,
So if
okay,
you
but so no, but
look at the directors
Nicholas,
filing.
will you let me finish for 1 second? This is an important point. If you pay off creditors and then shortly file for bankruptcy thereafter, I think it's like 90 days, could be 180. I haven't done it in a while. It's considered a preference payment, and the court can order that money returned. Okay, so you can't pay off creditors and then immediately file for bankruptcy. Okay, because that would be considered a preference payment. So that would be very interesting. Should they file within 90? I think it's 90 days, but it may be 6 months. So that's why I asked if they're not in bankruptcy now and they're paying off creditors, maybe they think they're going to withhold. They're going to forestall a bankruptcy for a while, or they don't understand that rule. Because sometimes I've seen companies do that. They start paying off certain creditors, maybe even out of order of the seniority preference that Nicholas mentioned, and then there's a problem. So watch for that. The idea of giving creditors equity is common, but it's usually done where the people who are senior as creditors, because there isn't enough there to reestablish their debt, they usually get the equity. So usually the existing equity holders in most bankruptcies are wiped out. I could probably tell you maybe, and because again I've seen a lot of them, worked on a lot of them, maybe half a dozen prominent ones where the pre-existing shareholders actually came out whole. Happened in American Airlines, um, happened in Toys R Us once actually, but generally it doesn't happen. Generally, the pre-existing shareholders to a bankruptcy have their stock taken away, and their stock is redistributed effectively to people who are up the food chain, who are creditors who can't have their claims paid in full. Those are called impaired claims. Okay, so it just depends on how much debt could this company, if any of these companies, um, sustain when they're reorganized and they come out. Because just because you go into Chapter 11 doesn't mean you come out with no debt. You usually come out with new debt, usually less debt, restructured. Okay, and any of the debt that was pre-existing that was so-called impaired that didn't get paid in full, usually gets like maybe a higher coupon, or they get equity, things like that. Carl Icahn put TWA through 3 or 4 bankruptcies like that. So anyway, so I'm done speaking.
So the point that I wanted to add to that was that FTX and Alameda, because of their equity position, will have been wiped out. But if they provide a line of credit, and that line of credit has the right seniority in terms of bailing them, or to be, it's their lifeline, they will then be able to be senior and to salvage their position, which is exactly what I think that they're doing, because they're no fools.
Oh, yeah,
And on the
this is new credit they're providing, Nicholas.
yeah,
Okay, that's called the new equity exception to the bankruptcy rule, and you're correct. If you put in fresh equity, you're now the senior creditor. Okay, if you put new equity post bankruptcy, now not only are you ahead of the other shareholders, the pre-existing shareholders, you're ahead of the other creditors too. So yes, that's correct.
he's a smart guy. That's what I would assume he would have done, and his advisors are savvy.
So I really appreciate Emmy for researching, and providing the answers to my questions. I'm not by any mean expert in terms of crypto or financial aspects, and especially the legal aspects of bankruptcy related, terminologies. So for layman, understanding, again have stupid questions. So my question is, Nicholas, this restructuring and Chapter 11 bankruptcy claims, doesn't that only means that now all the money from little fish is being taken away to provide and feed the big fish, and the little people are left with nothing, or perhaps penny over dollars return over several years down the line, where people who are
Yes.
responsible are, yes, right?
Yes. So
Oh,
basically, all of so because this is not a bank, the depositors are not protected, and they are effectively going to get wiped out unless someone has a desire to retain the business, which is why FTX would be interested, because as we said a week or two ago, that the aim of providing capital in these scenarios is to save one's position that one may have had, as we now found out that Alameda, which is a group company of FTX, had an equity position. That position will get wiped out, but the provision of senior lending and whatever they put into it is likely to put them at the top of the stack because they have the capital. So the question is, do they want to retain the business, and is there a business to retain below for at the consumer level? My gut feeling will be that there isn't a consumer business to retain, even though those customers notionally could be acquired cheaply. The real issue is, as soon as they open withdrawals on any of these, everyone who is sane will take their money out and salvage what they can. So the reason why you halt the withdrawals is to stop the run on them having a run on the bank, although they are not banks. So that's why they will have a definitive run, is because there's no insurance and no protection for the account holders who have no equity.
And their claim that they were FDIC insured for the USDTC, that's also false. So this Chapter 11 will protect them from class action lawsuits?
I doubt it.
Thank you.
I think what they mean, by the way, when they say there's FDIC insurance, if that's true at all, is that maybe some of the corporate money, which is then corporate money, not depositor money, some of that corporate money may have been in FDIC bank accounts. So maybe some of the corporate assets got preserved by that. But
I
that
think
does,
she
I mean,
means. I
you
think she
still
means
an
with relate.
unsecured credit. What?
I think it means in relationship to USDC, which is backed by Circle, and Circle is regulated and by the US regulatory authority. So I think that's what she's referring to as the USDC portion of assets, which is, like I say, a dollar stable coin regulated.
No, but Nicholas, is that an asset? It would be like having stock and street name at a certain point. If there's no SIPC, right? I mean, then basically, if you have stock and street name or something like that, and the stock is still there, but the stock becomes, the like belongs to unsecured creditors. It's kind of like a Robin Hood situation. So
Right, I agree that I think they'll get wiped out. I don't think
yeah.
it's insured. I don't think it's insured. I think the USDC being insured is irrelevant if you put that USDC into an uninsured brokerage account.
Okay, next
I
big
think this is teaching us a great lesson about the need for transparency. Nobody understands how this stuff works.
okay,
The best quote I heard recently is uh, blockchain and cryptocurrency is everything you don't know about finance, added to everything you don't know about technology, added to everything you don't know about politics. It's just it is difficult in the extreme, and people are not well versed in a lot of those areas, even if they are superficially think that they're well versed.
And yet they
E-
pretend to
e-
know everything.
exactly.
okay. Well, here's the weird thing: is then wouldn't it make sense to pay a little bit closer attention to people like Warren Buffett, who pretty much does understand and has teams dedicated to understanding how things work. I mean, he's built his.
Yes. And
Uh,
not only that, but you
He and
need to
Charlie are
listen to
excellent.
older people. You need to listen to older people who've been through this shit before in different ways because it may be a little bit different. It may have been with fiat, but it's all coming around again like it came around before. No one understood mortgage backed securities either back then. They do now.
well, by the way, though, to be fair, to be totally fair, the publicly traded markets, right, of the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange, generally, your average retail investor also similarly doesn't truly understand how that game works in the way that the very successful hedge fund managers do.
Playing all these games is all about time. The only way you make money is over a long period of time and through harnessing what Einstein referred to as the eighth wonder of the world, which is the power of compounding.
Yes.
Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and Stanley Druckenmiller and those types of players understand that better than anyone else. The most important thing is not to get blown out, not to go to zero. You have to live to fight another day, and you have to understand that if you draw down by 90%, you don't need the market to go back up by 90% in order to make your money back. You have to go up by hundreds of percentage points to make your money back by multiples.
Right.
So loss prevention is absolutely, and risk management is absolutely key, in addition to taking positions when you have an informational advantage. Warren Buffett has a massive informational advantage over everybody else because he gets to speak to all of the smartest people. When you're watching, CNBC and Jim Cramer to understand markets, you are literally listening to a taxi driver's opinion of markets.
Okay. So the next topic is that in a joint advisory, the FBI and the CISA and the Treasury Department warned that North Korea backed hackers, and we'll get into your questions about why North Korea has elite hackers, uh, are using the Maui ransomware against healthcare organizations. Why? Well, that's because hackers have come to realize that medical data is incredibly valuable data, and healthcare organizations are incredibly willing payers of ransomwares because the data is so valuable, which is making them a ripe target. And the question is, why are North Koreans targeting? Why are they hacking? And what are as a North Korean hacker, where does that money go exactly? Well, so we already know the answer to that. It's already been revealed that North Korea, the state, is holding about more bitcoins than Michael Saylor at this point due to all of the state hacking that's going on. So, and then the question is, how did those North Koreans learn how to hack like that? And that's
Most
where
of the
she. Go
most of
ahead.
the bankers in the world are pretty much self-taught,
Yeah.
and that's the key thing. No university is going to get you to the level of most of these hackers out there. The other thing is they have a lot more drive and motivation to do it. Okay, it's just like the Russians. It puts you in a protection status. Once you're doing it for a nation state, you're a protection status, and then it's run like a business. And the state is like the mafia; they get their vig on everything.
So, looking at the article, it says the FBI, the CISA, and the U.S. Treasury Department issued today a joint advisory warning of North Korean-backed threat actors using ransomware and attacks against healthcare organizations. Starting in May 2021, the FBI has responded to and detected multiple ransomware attacks impacting across the U.S. Quote, North Korea state-sponsored cyber actors used Maui ransomware in these incidents to encrypt servers responsible for healthcare services, including electronic health records, diagnostic
Yeah,
services.
Tyler. Tyler, it's infrastructure attack, right? So hospitals are infrastructure. So it's shots over the bow, but it's also yes, hospitals are they're easy targets. And they're, in addition to being self-taught, there's a bunch of recent stories on this ransomware and on North Korea and why they're so good, because they don't even have computers in their nation. They take a bunch of their math whiz geniuses and then train them, actually. So it's self-taught. It's also nation state supported. So that's why they are such a big player in this area. And this new Maui thing is a newer ransomware that is, when they start issuing these warnings, it means that it's becoming very prevalent.
And you have to remember what their game before this was. Before the ransomware game, they were huge into Swift attacks. Okay, so basically stealing money through Swift transfers, and the reason that drove them were all the sanctions.
Okay. So the next topic for today is from Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, who, as usual, has sources. This time, his sources tell him that a rugged Apple Watch is planned for this year. We'll have a larger 2-inch shatter-resistant screen, non-aluminum metal case, better workout tracking, and more. And I just heard somewhat verified rumors. Actually, I believe, was it Mark Gurman? I think it was Mark Gurman, that said he now believes that he knows, in fact, that Apple's been working on a form of temperature checking in the watch, and he believes it will be ready for the next watch. So that it's
Yeah,
My
not,
all
Oura Ring
reports
and
on
my
that.
Whoop already check temperature, so that doesn't seem to be a big deal.
it's a big deal now that Aura is charging a subscription. If Apple does it without a subscription,
I think
It's
there've been
just
reports on
another
that.
party getting the data, though. It's just another, and think about all the data that Apple
but
has on you.
there's a lot of people who've not yet bought Auras. Where if the Apple Watch provides some and continues to add more features and functionalities, then they don't need to buy Aura anymore. They can build in those many of the most important features into the watch and not charge a subscription, with a monthly tax, um, in the way that Aura's new models do.
I don't know about Aura, but I think an important aspect to this now is the fact that Apple's also chasing to get these medically certified. You know that that's where they want to go with this. It's one thing having an O2 sensor. It's one thing having a temperature sensor and everything else.
It's
It's a
an,
completely different thing to actually have them medically certified that they're accurate, and that's where they're going with this. I think.
it's
Exactly, Carl. That is my interest in it. How far away from the accurate data Apple sensors are, because the margin of error is a lot right now. So you cannot, for example, reliably consider Apple's heart rate, Apple's watch related blood pressure measurement as a medically valid vital sign. So when they achieve that kind of level of precision, the whole game will change in terms of how we are collecting the medical data, especially vital signs, because that will help in a far away, distant, online healthcare related requirements and needs. And Apple will serve really well over there, but they need to improve on their error in these sensors.
Yeah, to
Aram, I
Aram's
didn't
point,
think
this is
that.
going to help.
Oh,
Ben, let me jump in on this. To Aram's, because I just want to tie together the 2 points there. Aram's point is correct. We are moving towards the remote healthcare, and with all of these sensing devices, so temperature is one. They're going to start doing ones where people can do blood draws, etc. But so that Apple may play into that. But the other one is that these apps, like the Fitbit, like Apple stuff, are regulators are looking at bringing those under HIPAA controls or HIPAA regulations, because they are, and that would probably be pretty prevalent. It would probably go into a lot of the workout apps and Aura and everything else. And that's, again, just going to be not good because HIPAA is so antiquated and outdated. It's just another regulatory body on these. But it's also a note that these people are looking at these devices as some sort of, physical health monitor or guidance. So that is an interesting area that they're going.
Jennifer, was that you? This is Tina. I have a question regarding as we move into this sort of area, because I know that we've had this conversation before. I kind of wonder if it wouldn't also be um, prudent, I guess is the word I want to use, or maybe if it isn't something that is something to be worried about, or at least consider that if HIPAA possibly needs to be revisited, um, that organizations like Apple or Google or whomever it is that wants to get into the medical space with these devices, do you foresee any reason, or does anybody, where companies like Apple or Google or whomever it is would need to break off these organizations to segment or partition the data that they're receiving so that it doesn't commingle with their existing data because of HIPAA compliance or any future body that would govern that kind of information?
So right now, good question. Right, I'm gonna let John opine on that because he's a little bit more immersed in actual HIPAA and details. But HIPAA applies to the organization, to healthcare providers. So it wouldn't necessarily, how Apple would probably segment off that business unit that is handling that data, because you don't want other data that they're collecting elsewhere to fall under that, versus just the stuff they're getting from that app. But then again, just because it's protected under HIPAA doesn't mean it can't be used for certain things. I mean, do intercompany agreements and transfer the data and then disclose that in your privacy policy to your users who don't read it anyway. And now you have permission to mix the health data with the financial data and come up with a nice profile on somebody. Again, so it's just understanding what these regulations do and don't do. But good question, Tina.
Well,
Yeah,
because,
I, I don't I don't know that I don't
COVID
know that
monitoring, hasn't it? I mean, monitoring temperature, controlling access, cohering the data from your social field, your financial field, and your medical field is WeChat 101. So we know where we're going.
yeah I don't I think the partitioning question is a valid question. Um, the old saying that privacy ends where convenience begins applies here. If people are willing to give all this tracking information to Apple as a term and condition of their using a watch, an app, a sensor, or whatever, it sort of is an invitation for the aggregation of all forms of data, financial, web usage and searches, um, and everything that could be that is traditionally considered medical, but is now so accessible through inexpensive sensors and all the analytics associated with that. Uh, as long as they don't get into the area of diagnostics and therapeutics based on those data, um, and as long as people willingly um, allow Apple to see those data for the convenience of the user, I don't see the regulatory framework for requiring that isolation. However, once it's used in ways that result in therapeutics, then I think the HIPAA cops will come in full force.
And didn't we discuss the other day with Roe versus Wade related discussion that the period tracking apps were not covered under HIPAA? Someone's microphone is unmuted. I hear like swing
Well, I
noises.
think
So, sorry,
if
my
you
point is not
yourself
done.
give
My
permission,
my point. Can I complete my
sure.
thought? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. With Roe versus Wade related discussion, the apps are not under HIPAA. What does that mean? That means that right now, HIPAA is lagging behind in protecting patients' data, privacy, which is so heavily guarded in a healthcare business. But outside of healthcare business, in tech related apps, why there is a free reign available, either HIPAA is sleeping on it, or they don't care, or they've been bought. I don't know what's going on, but it's a very important aspect. If we are trying to keep our not only anonymity but sovereignty, intact, we need to make sure that these legal guidelines are followed, just like HIPAA does. And apps are not allowed, or even tech companies are not allowed to have complete access to all kind of physical identifiers and health related data, because that can be very dangerous in future, how it can be used against or for you.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with the principal authors of HIPAA, and they will tell you quite candidly that they wanted to go much further with that legislation and regulatory framework than they. Somebody's walking and needs to go on mute. Um, we can hear your footsteps. Um, they wanted to go much further than they did, but they realized that it would be very difficult to get the legislation passed, even with what is there, and as incomplete as it was, and as increasingly ineffective as HIPAA is in truly protecting privacy. And so there are a whole lot of things that they wanted to put in the legislation that they knew the well-funded lobbies uh, from multiple sources, insurance companies in particular, um, were going to shoot down. So it's not as though consumer protection is forefront on the minds of legislators. Um,
in meaningful ways. So HIPAA is a very very outdated regulatory framework, and to my knowledge, it's unlikely to change because the relationship between lobbyists and legislators is so powerful. So I think we're a long ways away from requiring Apple, from a legislative standpoint, requiring Apple to isolate those data from other data.
But by the way,
Yeah,
can
Yeah,
I
and
just
but
add?
also,
It
John,
won't.
they're
It
not
also,
won't
even
matter.
enforcing HIPAA. I
Ga-
mean, the
No,
other
no,
the
no.
other
also,
It won't even
are.
matter. By the way,
hold
people
on. I
keep.
think Dr. Francine has been trying to come in. Francine.
Also, Apple has participated in a number of medical studies that are under HIPAA, and they have a relationship already with the government on this front. But I think, and people voluntarily give their health information to a number of apps because want to be part of those studies or because they want the information for other purposes. So this is a long, slippery slope that we've been sliding down since the iPhone. And
Sorry, for the medical studies, they get paid, so they are voluntarily accepting something in returns of monetary benefits.
Ken, you wanted to say?
Yeah, yeah. What I wanted to say is, I think what people are missing on this abortion stuff with HIPAA and Jennifer, or I don't think we have a criminal defense lawyer on the stage, but once you're dealing with criminal law, if the state says it's criminal to do certain things and they want certain information, HIPAA or not, they could probably get it subpoenaed. Okay, even if Apple doesn't have it and you only have it, just like they could subpoena your records, okay, or they could raid your house looking for records. Okay, if they suspect a crime, okay, and they're now going to define in half these states abortion as a crime, none of those records may be protected by HIPAA. That would be, that's what I
That's what we discussed about the
correct.
third
No,
party
correct.
doctrine.
I will jump in on this, Ken, because it goes to yesterday's conversation, which I wasn't able to jump in on the pulling records from Google and subpoenaing records and whether Google should withhold those. And the discussion from yesterday's with the arsonist was whether they should be able to, whether these data requests need to be under stricter scrutiny, such as this, the same laws that are out there for manual searches, which is, for a search and seizure, reasonable belief, getting a subpoena and warrant, because right now a lot of these requests for data are too broad and they're coming from every department sideways. Any level of department can request this data from any of these companies, and the companies aren't equipped to vet every one of those and say you are or are not a valid police force, or you are or not, this is a valid request. Again, remember, they got hacked by hackers coming in as law enforcement. So again, and whether it's HIPAA or not, if it's under a criminal investigation, yeah, they're going to give that up.
I want to add one other point, which is to say that as soon as you start touching mental health, especially in light of what we just saw in Chicago in Highland Park, all your social data is going to be indicative of your mental health in future anyway. I mean, and all social activity is an indicator of mental health. So I just see the, the cohering of social, medical, and financial data leads to the panopticon of the surveillance state, and the third-party doctrine, as Ken and Jennifer point out, gives powers to the government to subpoena records at their will.
Yeah, so the other thing to think about, Jennifer, from a data perspective, think of all the apps on this phone that have your geolocation. One, you can get it from Google, you can get it from Facebook, Instagram, you can get it from, guess what? Your banking app, because your banking app has your geolocation too. So there's so many different data points where they can actually catch your location.
Well,
It,
and you have to look at your services. Exactly, Tom. People need to look at their apps and the ones that they can turn off that even disclose this, because again, it goes back to regulation, whether they're complying. And the other one is where they say, look, if you're going to go rob a bank or you're going to go somewhere, don't even bring the phone, because one of those apps is going to show your data, your geolocation, if not
or
more.
pictures, because people love taking pictures of everything. They'll go to eat before something. All the geolocation is in every freaking image on the phone.
That you
That's
send,
correct.
that you post. It's swipe up and look at all that meta tag information that's in every photo that you post or that you take. So yeah, people again, it's people just don't really understand what's being tracked.
more than that, because yesterday we covered the really interesting article about the reverse Google searches where arsonists were found because the police were able to ostensibly
That's what I was saying, Tyler, tying it back to that just really quickly, because that was the question in that case that they're going at is not whether Google should give up that information or not, which is where this conversation went, but it's whether under what circumstances. And again, it's bringing in more scrutiny and a little bit higher standards. So
yeah. But
that
here's my
that
point.
network is so broad.
Right.
Just
My
a
point is,
couple of other things
hold
to
on, Ben.
bring in, though. Yeah, sure.
Then let me jump in. I'll hand to you next. If the police or the state can say to Google, we please reveal to us everyone who searched for this address in the past 5 months. And the article yesterday was about how 3 people got arrested. Whatever, they're in a trial. It was an LA Times article, wasn't it? Where the 3 suspects are suing, I think, Google for handing over data because those three
So that
individuals.
was the LA Times, I think, was the TikTok one.
Right, right. Anyway, my point is, if the state or the police or who have you can get Google to hand over data based on everybody who did a search for X on any particular date, right? That gets a lot more interesting in if they can do something to the likes of give us everybody who had a heart rate of an unusually high level at this bank at this date and time, because the Apple Watch will have your heart rate, your blood pressure, and whatever, and they'll know that you had an unusually high heart rate or blood pressure or temperature at that time.
That might not be the right question because I think everybody subjected to the attack would also have an elevated heart rate.
Well, what about people who had an elevated heart rate 3 minutes before the attack? So
I get
similarly,
your point. I'm only playing with you. But
right? But it gets even more interesting because Apple's no ordinary would be, in dabbling in this space of health data, deserve special consideration because they have an ad network and they're quickly shifting. They've starting to saturate their hardware legacy business model, and they're going in strong on the ad network side of things, which is why they're kind of pushing Facebook into the ocean. And Facebook is similarly. My point is if you have an Apple Watch on that can now track your blood pressure in real time and your heart rate in real time and your temperature in real time, and it will continue to do more and more, and you'll have earbuds in that will at some point read your damn thoughts. That would be, and you have nearly all of their devices, the phones and the laptops, have now increasingly better cameras on the fronts of them. With, by the way, they can do eye tracking in partnership, despite what our old friend from Texas used to say, is enabled by a partnership through my friends over at Tobii in Stockholm. So if the eye tracking on the devices syncs with your Apple Watch and your heart rate and your blood pressure and etc., that is an incredibly biofeedback ad signal to an ad network of how you're responding to exactly what you're looking at. That I'm not aware of another ad network that has that.
On the case of, for instance, Apple and Google coming under a subpoena for the data of who was where during a certain criminal activity, I think that conversation is rendered moot with the adoption of AR glasses. I mean, when you have constant footage from 100 different camera angles of any event happening at any time ever, I don't think you need to track people's heart rate. You don't need to track their location or anything like that because you've got the footage that you need from
Well, okay. What
how
about you? What about when you beat your wife last week and you claim you didn't? Well, then why was your heart rate that high? At the times that she said it was.
dangerous territory.
I was on the Peloton.
That's the point I'm trying to get to. Is it opens a bigger Pandora's box than I think most people are
Well, it's back to the
anticipating.
Minority Report, right? And then you could start profiling certain behaviors and activities and profiling certain patterns of biometric data to try and predict what will eventually happen. Well, this
He,
person
he,
clearly goes through cycles of rage.
yes, Carl. I don't. I believe you weren't on the stage when we read the article. Was it
I
yesterday?
wasn't. Sorry.
The and you're going to think I'm joking, but it was from. Was it not from? It was a CCP outlet. Which one was it? China Daily. China Daily, which
Global
is
time.
which one? Global Times. Thank you, BB. Global Times put out a piece on behalf of the CCP saying very clearly, we'll find it and pin it again right now for you, that the CCP is claiming they now are using AIs in and their AI assisted technology is able to determine
To see if you
essentially
are loyalty to CCP or not.
you're
Make sure.
yeah
Yeah.
they're able to do the beginnings of reading your thoughts. That's their phrasing, by the way. And by the way,
There are a lot of research on face technologies and reading faces, and
right.
even being able to discern diseases because of facial characteristics, which are unique and correlate with specific illnesses. And without seeming flippant, this is self-evident to most people when they see someone who is Down syndrome. They have facial indications, and this is how it was explained to me by the people behind that technology. So all they need is a copy of what your face looks like when they're giving you the information, and it's like lie detection or medical detection.
Okay, so I mean, it gets weird because there even in the new AirPod Pros, they're saying there's a new what was the surprising new sensor being built into the new AirPod Pro 2. It was either a heart rate monitor or something to that effect. Some unexpected.
Yeah, you should be able to do heart rate through the ear. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the next one is in a joint advisory, the FBI. It was the one that I shared before we jumped into the list, and here it is on the list as number. Oh wow, it's no, we read that one already. Sorry. Next one is we did the watch. Here it is, Wall Street Journal, number 5. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4. The FBI and MI5 issue a rare joint statement warning tech companies of China's large-scale state-sponsored hacking and global network of agents to steal intellectual property. Cheryl can pin it. Yeah, there it is. Uh, Officials say Beijing employs large-scale hacking and global network of agents to steal Western technology. U.S. also warns about efforts to influence policy making. China is building a
The
missile.
FBI and the MI5 to detect that is pretty
Uh, their joint thing that they just did this in London. There's a
No,
video.
I'm just saying it's been going on for so long. The whole idea of being the manufacturing hub of the world was to get transfer. That was the whole.
Yeah, so the Cheryl pinned it to the top of the room. It says the heads of the FBI and Britain's Domestic Security Service, that's MI5, MI6, issued sharply worded warnings to business leaders around about the threats posed by Chinese espionage, especially spying aimed at stealing Western technology companies' intellectual property, which we actually talked about yesterday in some detail, by the way. In a rare joint appearance on Wednesday at the headquarters of MI5, the director of the FBI and directors of MI5 urged executives not to underestimate the scale and sophistication of Beijing's campaigns. Quote, the Chinese government is set on stealing your technology, whatever it is that makes your industry tick, and using it to undercut your business and dominate your market. Mr. Ray told the audience of business people. They're set on using every tool in their disposal to do it. China uses state-sponsored hacking on a large scale, along with a global network of intelligence operatives. That means spies. But that's how the spy agency boss refers to spies. A global network of intelligence operatives. In its quest to gain access to technology it considers important. U.S. counterintelligence officials issued a separate notice on Wednesday warning state and local government leaders and business executives about the different Chinese threat, accelerating efforts to influence policy making through overt and covert means. The notice from the U.S. National Counterintelligence and Security Center cited tactics ranging from, here we go, drumroll please, open lobbying, because, hey, why? Low hanging fruit. Why not take it? where Beijing's role is acknowledged to collecting personal information about state and local leaders and leveraging trade and investment to reward or punish officials. Combined, I had that threat thrown at me, by the way, with my event in Stockholm when I invited the Hong Kong protest organizers to appear as speakers at my event, which they politely accepted. That was a fantastic interview. And the ambassador to China in Stockholm threatened to limit trade between Sweden and China if I allowed this to happen. So he was trying to get Sweden to shut me down for fear that Sweden would lose trade with China. So they do like to jump. That's kind of their favorite go-to weapon of choice, I think. Combined, the warnings from Mr. Ray and the Counterintelligence Center underscore what Washington sees as the persistent systemic challenge China poses to the U.S. economy and the government, blah, blah. It goes on. Here, one more quote. We want to send the clearest signal that we can on a massive shared challenge, which is China, Mr. Ray said in the appearance with his UK counterpart, if we are to protect our economies, our institutions, and our democratic values. China is engaging in, quote, a coordinated campaign on a grand scale that represents a strategic contest across decades. And we need to
This
act.
is this is such just bullshit. This has been going on for decades and decades and decades, and at the end of the day, it's about competition, and nation states compete with each other. America's, the global superpower was a, unitary superpower, and now the Chinese are there. Ultimately, the problem that America and the rest of the world has is that without cheap Chinese inputs, you have massive inflation. And all you have to decide, and this is what we're seeing right now with the food and with everything else that's going on, is that you can't really resist the importance of the Chinese to the world. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? Other than just bitch and moan, because what are they going to? Oh, we're gonna stop them doing what? Making amazing iPhones for Apple. What are you going to stop them doing? Do $10,000 for your iPhone? It's just it's just a narrative, and they're just trying to set up for an rightly or wrongly, an anti-Chinese isolationist policy. This is the division coming between the powers that be, and we saw this in the chip market. We've seen this in markets where we realize we are addicted to the opioid that is China.
Nicholas is spot on with this. There's absolutely nothing particularly new going on here. It's been going on for a couple of decades. It calmed down with Obama. He managed to sort of almost semi-embarrass Xi Jinping into an agreement of laying off the hacking, laying off the corporate espionage. It was a little bit like closing the stable doors after the horse had bolted, though, because they'd already gotten everything that they need. And then all of that tenuous sort of agreement was undone a little bit by Trump's sort of ferocity towards China. But there's nothing particularly new here. I mean, if you remember, Tyler, at the beginning of this year, we had similar news articles coming out from China towards America. China was saying that all of these American hacking and these American espionage and the Western espionage on China is dangerous and blah, 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 blah. And now we've got news reports from the West and articles from the West going back towards the East now. It's just a game of politics, and both sides are doing exactly the same to each other. There's absolutely nothing new here, I don't think.
Let's see. There's a whole bunch of tweets. Interestingly, the BBC ran with it. MI5 put out a statement on their site. So did the FBI. Fortune, Financial Times, The Verge, The Guardian, Slashdot, uh, The Independent, NBC News, and Axios, all covering this announcement from MI5 and FBI jointly. And maybe it's if it. I mean, and I agree. To you and to me, we know that this has been going on for a very, very long time, and we see articles every few weeks that and evidence of it. That, but maybe it's not known mainstream, and that's why mainstream media has picked up on this particular story. Like I said, I don't pick the arrangement of and I don't pick the stories, and that Cheryl can confirm. And this is article
No, I
number
mean this is the
number
story.
four.
What you're saying, what the story is the story. The
Right.
the fact is that this is about introducing a narrative that regarded as well understood by those who understood, and there is the thing that's worth talking about. Why are we stirring this narrative? It's designed to say, come and daddy will protect you. That's what everyone wants to hear, is protect me, Apple's going to protect me. This is, I trust them. This is the whole game. So first you have to make people scared, and then you offer the blanket of authoritarianism, whichever flavor of authoritarianism it might be, benevolent dictatorship, a la Singapore. There, they love the leadership. Giving someone a good caning for vandalizing a car seems pretty reasonable. Well, I'm not saying agreeing or disagreeing, and I'm being slightly derogatory in a way, but
But
ultimately, for all
people
those
are
reasons,
paying for protection.
right, they're paying for protection. So the narrative has to stir fear. Then you offer them protection. Then you create a scapegoat. Then reason for the division, the cell division, and that's what we're going through. You just say it's a cell division, and as we've always said, there's the SCO, there's the West, and then there's the decentralized distributed technologists. Those are your three options in the world that's coming, and ultimately it's just part of a narrative of awareness. And the question is, to what end? To what end? Is like, where are we going, and which side you want to pick?
Is anybody else a little surprised that that this is the FBI and MI5 involved in this, as opposed to the NSA and GHCQ, which is the UK version of that? I mean, if they're really concerned about the Chinese hacking and signal intelligence and everything else, why have we not got? Why is this report not being done by the main players in the Western game?
Because it's the political message. Because the other came out was that 1 billion Chinese records have been leaked onto the was it 1 million records or whatever it was that we say. So
1 billion.
there's 1 billion records. Well, that's counter espionage at its best. And we talked about North Korea. State. We talk about Ukraine. That's a proxy state. We are in a full out cyber cold war that is either, that people are trying to avoid going hot via proxies. This is the normal behavior that we see.
Yeah, but Tyler, the funny thing is, just like you said previously, Boris Johnson's thing maybe clouds this, the
Yeah,
timing. Yeah.
a couple
But
of
it's the
people.
first time the U.S., I mean the FBI and the MI5 joined together to announce this kind of thing. But I think prior to this, separately, or have the I think uh, the announcement or and a heads up for the world about spying. So, like you said, it's not only close in the Carson. It's not new things, but maybe the joint announcement is a new thing.
The joint
I would
announcement is
agree.
coming from the wrong source for a political reason.
No,
This
what
this is
happens
a
is
political narrative.
it's not the way it operates is they work on what's called joint task force. Okay, the leads of the joint task force are those two agencies in their respective state. So when there's Chinese spying going on, the FBI takes the lead. If you remember, all the spy takedowns were always in the FBI DOJ press release. That's just a normal mode of operations inside the state. Those joint task force now, that's where they're going to have all the other agencies involved, whether it be HSI, NSA, CIA, to counteract those points outside of the actual nation state, outside of the US, outside of the UK. That's the mode of operation. The NSA's whole job is signals interception. So when they're talking, well, the intercepts are happening. When they're spying on, say, there's cameras that have to get popped. That's the NSA doing the work, not the FBI. That's why it's all done through a joint task force, but the FBI and MI5 are the ones taking the leads on that.
Okay. Next topic: a new
So,
legal.
so wait, it's political
Oh,
or it's not political? Sorry, just wanted to
it's good.
clarify.
It's a
It's
good
just,
Oh,
question.
it's
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 just
political.
both.
So I, but I just want to like So am I supposed to be worried about it or not? Are we just saying we ignore it because we have
The
this other
question
narrative
is,
that we're building
what's the
now in
purpose
this
of
room?
stirring up the narrative?
Yeah,
That's the
but we're
question.
stirring up a narrative that's a narrative.
Correct. I mean, this is
Right.
just the mode of
It's bringing
operation.
attention.
Right, but they also want you to. It's basically a warning shot that they're watching. They're always watching. Don't get me wrong. If you were to see all the number of
It's
arrests they
letting the public know. In a press release, it's letting the public know who our friends are and what we are concerned about and what you therefore should be concerned about. That we have these conversations and people have a, a political narrative and a scapegoat which needs to be formed when you make an appeal to the population.
I don't know. I think you're going down a rabbit hole there, but that's
BB,
me.
when is the CCP annual event that's coming up?
Maybe in October, but in history, from August to November, or possible. I mean, the annual
I think it's the end of
meetings. Yeah,
October. The
but
one that's going to re-elect him is in the end of October, I believe.
you believe, but officially they hasn't announced about. So that's why I said in historic records from August to November, it's all possible. But this year, because the last 2 years is in October, so everybody said it's set in October, but not none. I mean, no official announcement yet.
I wasn't
I,
looking at the phone, but I assume it was Tom who responded about SIGINT. And I agree with you, if that was you. I'm not saying that this is anything different to the norm. I'm saying that it brings attention to the subject for the regular populace by making these announcements and the timing of these announcements and the way that the narrative is being presented to the general populations as
Right, and it also, if you're in this space, people that are not in the cybersecurity space, this is also the prime time when there's a ton of hacking that's going on. Especially the fact that we're basically going into a recession and people are downsizing, that creates these companies to become more and more vulnerable. I know most of my customers are dropping about 5% of their company staff, which is literally starting this month until the end of the year.
okay, next up.
Was Ben trying to jump in a few times?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Ben. I meant to hand it back to Ben.
Whoa, long way to the mute button. No, it's cool. I was just going to say there are a few things. Probably be less worried about like metadata in your photos. You can turn that off. Um, Certainly off in terms of when you upload it to a third party. You could never be sure that Apple can't get it, and perhaps in turn that law enforcement. But from what I've seen, from what I've tested, there is no metadata on your photo, location metadata. If you want iOS, go to Settings, Privacy, Camera, and turn that off. It just doesn't store it against the photo in the first place. And then the second thing, so be less worried about that, take control of it, and more worried about things like the fact that the location of your phone by IMEI and other identifiers is triangulatable by the which cell towers it's in contact with, which is something you don't have control over. So you can get some sort of accuracy on a location history based on cell tower pings. So just FYI, that's not that accurate, but it's still within tens of meters. Not
Right.
bad.
So, and then the other scenario that most people don't know about is most of these corporate buildings and cameras on the streets. Because you can't just go on one piece of intel, you need multiple pieces of intel. They can literally gain access to those camera footages to prove you were there at the certain time based on the cell tower location information as well. Also, don't forget from the hacker perspective, Shodan is everybody's favorite tool where you can literally go out there and find all the open cameras that are out there. So, perfect example. The average user will go and plug Ring doorbells and Blink cameras all around their house in the internal and external perimeter, but not know how to lock that down. So don't forget, Amazon will have all that data stored up in the cloud as well too. So there's multiple points to go and get all this information.
Or with Nest or Ring or what was the third one you mentioned?
So there Ring, Blink is another big seller.
Yeah, so Nest, I don't know about Blink, but for sure with Nest and Ring, it is not possible to stop your data going to those services. It is leaving the house. It is streaming or the system's not working. If you want data not to leave your house, you need your own IP cams. If you want good user interface and not some shitty like open source hack together crap, then go something like Unify, UNIFI. And then if you do combine that with like virtual private networks set up and firewall rules, you can get all the niceties, gloss, person detections, proper A-class app that you get with Nest or Ring or anything else, but you can also prove and verify for yourself that that data is not leaving your house. So it is possible. You just got to make a bit of extra effort. I would say a lot of extra effort, but depends how much you already know.
I'm talking about third-party factors. So, for instance, if I were to go by, if Tyler lived here in New York City, and I were to go by Tyler's house, and my phone location shows I was in the vicinity of Tyler's house. Okay, they could do a geofence at that particular location, make that request to say Amazon, okay, for the Ring or Blink cameras to actually get some of that information.
Yeah, exactly. But that's upon all of us to take some more control over our data. It's not just for us that our data is being streamed out, but it's a question of could that influence somebody else? So that's a really good point. You've got a responsibility when you have a camera pointing into a public space to think about whether it's fair on the people in the public space that you're then sending that to somebody else's server, in my opinion.
Yeah, my
Okay.
The thing
biggest
is that
my cameras pick up everybody's conversations, and I have no control over the voice control, even though it's way outside of my perimeter.
the thing to be worried about is that we have to think
Is that Nicholas? You're under the water there. We
In the
can't hear you.
Matrix, Nicholas, yeah.
He's pretty deep. Okay, we'll jump into the next. We can circle back with Nicholas there. Uh, Several outlets reporting that Reddit has launched an NFT avatar marketplace with 90 profile pictures available for purchase at a fixed rate, expanding on support for Ethereum-based NFTs.
Well, hopefully they do better than Ford.
It's
Then
Reddit.
who?
Ford released an NFT which no
The
one
car
purchased. It
company.
was
Yeah.
it was a major flop.
Okay.
So Reddit has partnered with Polygon, an Ethereum-compatible blockchain, to mint the avatars on chain. You can use Reddit's own blockchain wallet called the Vault, which is available on the firm's native app, to store and manage the NFTs. Currently, Vault is used to earn blockchain-based community points and spend them on special features like badges. Today, NFT avatars will be available to members of the collectible avatars invite-only subreddit, and listing prices for these NFTs avatars range from $10 to $100 each. If you are not part of that community, the company noted that these collectible avatars will be available to buy on its avatar builder page for everyone in coming weeks.
I predict a time will come, Tyler, when we collectively, or at least some of us, regret the amount of time we spent saying the words NFT. Once all this dust settles in a year or two, just to see if I'm right that we
I
will feel
second
like we've
that,
wasted our time.
Ben. I second that.
Okay.
I think you have to consider the NFT like the internet. So everyone's talking about web pages. NFTs are going to be like web pages, and ultimately, where I mark the book is that NFTs are just unique IDs, and at the end of the day, what the is the most valuable thing in the world is our words, because words have power, and if you can own words, then you have something that is ephemeral but in the mind of people, and that's the real core value that one needs to understand is identity is at the core of all human contracts.
I can tell you every email I've ever sent is identifiable and unique. One of ones. Although I have sent out some blast email campaigns to everybody, but most of my emails are handwritten, authentic. You can think of them as NFTs, and if you want one of my handcrafted emails that you can keep in your inbox wallet and demonstrate as a unique. So you can think of it as an NFT. It's a
Tyler,
digital.
you're oh my god, you're literally creating a nightmare for
Exactly.
me.
Exactly right. It's exactly right. This is just the next level of layer of technology, and like Ben said, it's just embarrassing that people gave it such a silly name for something that is reductively so clear.
Okay, so the next article is somewhat related. It says a new legal advisory from the U.S. Office of Government Ethics. I'm actually surprised that even exists. I've never heard of that. The U.S. Office of Government Ethics.
Isn't that an oxymoron? Government ethics.
I'm a little flabbergasted. The U.S. Office of Government Ethics has a new legal advisory which bars federal workers who own any cryptos from working on cryptocurrency related policy or regulation. There it is at the top of the clubhouse room for your easy access and enjoyment. The new legal advisory from the
And if you own any dollars, you should resign too, because you're in conflict of
Right.
interest.
I'm wondering who they're going to get some, insights from because obviously they're not as well versed in this. If you're, I mean, I understand not wanting the same crypto owners to make the policies. You want to have it a bit more balanced, but who are you going to speak to if not the crypto owners? This doesn't make
Or maybe those people who are anti-crypto, they learn about it, but they think that it's just sham, like what Bill Gates said.
It's an interesting move to prevent policymakers from dabbling or accepting. By the way, we have a Swedish parliament member who I consider a friend who used to join us in the earliest days of Tech News, who uniquely was the first parliament member who could do his kind of campaign fundraising exclusively through Bitcoin. So he would not be able to do any policies, obviously. So the next one is that Apple announces something new called lockdown mode in the upcoming version of the operating system, iOS 16, and also in the upcoming version of the operating system for your laptops, Mac OS Ventura, which will be coming out right about September typically. And this new lockdown mode is to protect against quote unquote highly targeted cyber attacks by disabling features, apps, and more. So Apple's going to help you be safer and making it easy for you to put your devices into lockdown mode. Apple today announced the new lockdown mode coming to the iPhone, iPad, and Mac with iOS 16 and Mac OS Ventura.
But you would riff on OS Ventura Pet Detective.
Oh, I was going to go there. That is, yeah. Never mind.
It says when enabled, lockdown mode provides an extreme level of security by strictly limiting or disabling the functionality of features, apps, and websites. It will include the following protections. One, two, three. Here we have 6 listed here. Number 1, in the Messages app, most message attachment types other than images are blocked, and some features like link previews are unavailable. Number 2, incoming FaceTime calls from people you have not previously called are blocked. Incoming invitations from other Apple services from people you have not previously invited are also blocked. Number 3, some complex web technologies and browsing features like JavaScript compilation are disabled unless the user excludes a trusted site from lockdown mode. This protection applies to Safari and all other web browsers using WebKit on the phones or your devices. Number 4, shared albums will be removed from the Photos app. A new shared albums invitation and new shared album invitations will be blocked. Number 5, when a device is locked, wired connections with other devices accessories are blocked. And lastly, number 6, configuration profiles cannot be installed, and the device cannot enroll into mobile device management while lockdown mode is turned on. Apple said it will continue to add new protections to lockdown mode over time. Apple has added a new category.
If you were planning on becoming a bank, that is exactly what you would implement.
So Apple's head of security engineering, Ivan Kristic, says that lockdown mode is at a groundbreaking capacity that reflects our unwavering commitment to protecting users from even the rarest, most sophisticated attacks. Now, reading between the lines here, this this Apple's way to try and combat Pegasus? Now that's the question. Will this stop Pegasus?
So
I
you know
think it,
who,
I think it
Tyler?
will. Yes.
It's going to stop law enforcement, and they're going to go crazy. So if your phone gets grabbed during an arrest, and you can put it in lockdown mode, law enforcement is going to go crazy because they won't be able to get at it.
Yeah. So wait, sorry, I wasn't super listening there, but the thing with CyberWire just went over this. So to lock your phone, you at least for the one that starts with an S, it's hey Siri, whose phone is this? And it will go into lockdown so that you can only be opened with your passcode and biometrics. And they said you can't ask for their passcode because right now that's self-incrimination, giving up that data, arguably. However, they can use your biometrics. So it's kind of a wide open area.
So NYPD will love that because they're notorious for smashing your thumb down or putting your face up to your camera to get on your phone.
Yeah, apparently they can still do that.
Well, what couldn't you rig up your phone to by Siri command to disable facial unlock and thumbprint unlock?
Yeah, you can. Back to the convenience factor, though. So you can turn off the biometrics, absolutely. And then
I
you
mean,
can also,
turn them off via a Siri command.
You can also do it by it keeps changing, but you used to be able to push one of the power button a certain number of times or hold it down. I'd have to look up what the current is, but you can kind of do it in your pocket as well if you've got
yeah,
it
but they
set up.
said if that's what they were talking about is that if you're not able to get your hands on it, like if you're not able to move or you don't have your hands on it, it's that voice command of "Hey Siri, whose phone is this?" and then it will automatically lock.
Well, the other scenario is that everybody forgets because this was notorious for red teams during COVID. You're wearing a mask, you can't take advantage of that stuff. So guess what you're always doing? You're always typing your PIN. So where do you get people's PIN? Security cameras.
Above and beyond this, I think the wider use is that if you're going to store value on your phone, you're going to need to be able to lock that phone down. And I think Apple's clear intention is to cohere the social and the financial and the medical on the iPhone. That poses a threat to freedom. And I think that they know that.
Nicholas, your mic is not good today for some reason. The next topic, moving right along. Cheryl, we're going to skip the Samsung Q2 uh, report and jump to the Financial Times. A look at Amazon's plans to crack live stream shopping, including hosting 4 events to attract influencers, offering generous bonuses, and more. Amazon has stepped up plans to crack the QVC-style live stream shopping market as the $1 trillion e-commerce giant aims to replicate the success of, drumroll please, I imagine they're going to say Pinduoduo, but let's see. To replicate the success of social media rivals in an attempt to revive flagging online sales. The group has been increasing investment in Amazon Live, a platform it quietly launched in 2019 but is now a central focus for Amazon as it fights to grab a slice of the growing market that is viewed as the future of shopping by social media platforms. Although not TikTok, who just shut it down 48 hours ago.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What's the story with TikTok? They do an experiment in the UK and then they shut down the US,
Yes.
or
So,
show intent that they don't do the US because that's a different country.
right. So were you following
No, I
along?
just saw that. I saw the headline yesterday. I read it
You saw the headline.
briefly. Yeah, briefly.
Here's what you would only us tech newsers have managed to figure out that I think everyone else has missed because we're following this closer than probably anybody. Which is 2 weeks ago there was reports that the team leader for TikTok in London, who was running the TikTok live shopping product, was accused of kind of, well, he got into some arguments with some of his team members saying that he doesn't believe women should be able to have time off for maternity leave. And then there was a walkout or people resigning from the team. And then TikTok had to make a statement that this guy, is going to take a leave and yada yada yada. And then 2 weeks later, they shut it down. They shut down the team, and that was the team responsible for the TikTok live stream shopping in the UK, which it was the first place they were testing it, sort of outside of Asia.
So Tyler, was that the one that started as a little war on Twitter?
What do you mean?
No, I mean, I remember a little verbal war going back and forth about that on Twitter. So I wonder if it also stemmed out to Twitter about him saying that.
Oh, I don't recall what happened on Twitter.
Yeah, but up. It was about 2 weeks ago. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that TikTok would. I mean, maybe they don't have a choice because they need a new person to go in and lead the team, and there was it's seemingly a bit of a culture clash going on between the project manager in that case, or the and
I can understand shutting down the experiment, right? For whatever reason. Didn't
yeah,
work, didn't understand the UK market,
yep,
finding out new data,
yep,
that the leader's is not the right leader. I can
right,
understand all of that, but I'm
right,
curious about why they would make a statement about future intent in the US unless they're just kind of slowing down. They just decided, like, you know what? We just don't want a lot of attention with TikTok. Everyone's going
right,
to come after us,
Layla,
except for the U.S. media, by the way.
yeah,
Yes, I've seen
yeah,
some of your tweets on that.
yeah.
U.S. media
You like
doesn't seem
that
to come
tweet?
up. Yeah, I saw that tweet. But yeah, so I mean, like, I just don't understand. Like, why would you stop experimenting on this? This is a huge space. You keep trying. You try
Of
different
course.
spaces. Yeah.
And by the way, it's not like some trivial small thing. This is like the next massive thing they could possibly be doing. Period. There's no other than the metaverse, live shopping. And by the way, live shopping is likely to pay off dividends now, right
Yeah, I
now.
mean, with all the uncertainty about ad revenue, right? Just
Right.
all kinds of ways. This is like a whole new business model, right? You'd
Right.
experiment. You'd put 5% of your profits on this, right? Just
Right.
experimenting different
Right.
things. So I'm surprised that they've made maybe it's not that somebody senior hasn't made that intent, right? It's just some that they're not going to go into live shopping in the US. The other thing is, like we did and Walmart did and everybody, you screw up in a new market, right? Sometimes you don't understand the local market. You don't understand the competition. The Brits may not be the right place to try out social shopping.
Right.
These guys are, polite people that like to
You know what's
be
funny?
nice to each
It's interesting because TikTok has success in Asia with live shopping. So when they go to a place where it doesn't just start happening like they're used to seeing it happen, they did say in a statement 48 hours ago, "Oh, the market's just not ready for this." And if you're Amazon and you don't have massive live stream shopping, billions of dollars a day in live stream shopping, you have a much more patient demeanor in letting the market develop because you as the platform are learning the ropes as well. So you're not so
Absolutely, Tyler. Tyler, what they do is this is in retail. This is like I've lived this thing in a when these retailers go to a new market, um, they go with their orthodoxy. And the more successful they are in their home market, the more of that orthodoxy they take. Doesn't matter who they are, right? We had this Australian player that came here to buy home base from, Argos, which I was helping with to buy. They basically started selling barbecues in the winter here, right? Literally. And we told them, like, you're idiots. John and I, like, little, you can't do this. You have to understand. I mean, so they just bring their orthodoxy. And so it works both directions, right? So it could be a bit of that. But I don't think social shopping's dead. I just don't feel like, I think it's worth experimenting with. I don't think that TikTok is going to give up on this, but I don't know. If they do, then Amazon's got a chance here.
Yeah.
Cal, I also the sentiment is the same. I'm not sure how that translates overall, but I, as a consumer, there are plenty of times where I see something on Instagram and someone's wearing something. It would be nice if I can just tap on it and see exactly where that product is. And live shopping would be something that I'd welcome. And I know a lot of women who would appreciate that. It's one of the aspects I loved about living in Asia. So I do agree with you. This would be a horrible thing to turn their backs on. It would be a great missed opportunity.
Well, there's another point, which is for Amazon, if live shopping does happen in the West, and that's an easy answer, it's absolutely going to happen. Amazon needs to be part of it because it is such a threat to them if it happens and they're not leading it. Because Amazon is leading online shopping today. If social shopping happens, it'll be like what happened to Blockbuster when Netflix came out. It's like Blockbuster needs to get into Blockbuster effed up by not following into live streaming. Similarly, Amazon needs to follow into live shopping because that's where the future is going. They need to be part of that transition or they're going to get left behind just like Blockbuster did when Netflix came out. And they know that. So, but TikTok's very different. TikTok doesn't need to go into live stream shopping because they're not going to get killed if they're not part of it. People will still be using TikTok even if live stream happens without them. It's not an existential threat if they don't get it right, which is why TikTok can pause on it and reassemble, go back to the drawing board, come back with plan B, and where Amazon can't afford to miss this. They have to stay out in front of it. They have to win this race. It says in the second paragraph of the article, Amazon's goal is to establish itself as the main destination for live online shopping, ahead of competing efforts from YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, but also a host of smaller startups backed by prominent VC firms like Andreessen Horowitz, which has an app called Whatnot that I personally had not heard of. Each of these groups are betting that Western consumers will adopt live e-commerce with the same enthusiasm as has occurred in China, where sales generated through live streams are projected to surpass. Here we go. Here's a chance to play our favorite show. What does this article say is the projected live social commerce in China for 2022? Where's my Jeopardy theme music here? What's the projected?
75%.
No, not percentage. In terms of how many billions?
I'd
Billions
say
of
about
what, Tyler?
5 billion. 5 billion.
Dollars.
Yes, in dollars.
Oh, in dollars. Oh, I'd say 120 billion.
10 million?
Is it the amount of money Amazon made?
No, the amount of social commerce in
Opportunity.
China in 2022.
Oh,
120 billion.
okay. At least 20 billion.
Anybody else? Where's Messi when
I
you
I'm
need?
got
gonna
you.
stick with my
120.
regular
120
answer
billion.
of 100 billion again.
You're all wrong. The correct answer is 400 billion.
Oh my
Oh,
Oh,
God.
by the
bro.
way, Jasmine Gavagan in
We
the
were a
chat
drop
said
in the ocean.
exactly 400 billion. So she wins.
So it represents 15% of all e-commerce in China is now social commerce. And now you understand why Amazon can't afford to fuck this up. So
400 billion, Tyler?
400 billion. You do remember that the lipstick king, one influencer in all of China, made 1 billion in one day last year.
Hmm.
And this is dollars, not yuan, right?
Correct, dollars. Wasn't there a very handsome bald tech bro that came in here on about maybe 40 or 50 different occasions to say how big this was going to be?
Is a
Yeah.
tech bro a
Well, you mean you
diagnosis?
mean you mean Jeff?
You mean
I love that guy, Jeff. Jeff is a cool guy.
Um, so
Oh,
either
actually, Ben as well. Hang
it
on.
could be Ben too. You never know with these
Sorry, I'm
handsome
just
bald
looking at
tech
all
bros.
the bald guys on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, me too. I'm searching for the bald
Probably,
guy.
Ben's got a
even
hat.
Tom could be part of the
Yeah,
handsome bald.
Tom. Yeah.
I was going to say, don't skip over Tom now.
Hey, I'm just
The
cutting my
guy
hair
who
to keep.
have
I'm
the
just cutting my hair to
future,
keep cool.
time traveling capacity, who just travels in time and come back.
So it's 15% currently in China. It says the
Just want to give
model.
some perspective to that number.
Yeah.
Just some perspective to that number. The total amount of tax paid by US corporations was around 300 billion.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's the size of that number.
The social commerce has proved lucrative for TikTok in China. That's what it's
What is
for.
our GDP once again? Sorry, Tyler.
Selling more than 10 billion products, this article says. And then it shows a graph of how social commerce has grown in China since 2019 to 2023. Oh, well, according to this graph, it's up to over 500 billion for the projection. I'm sorry. So in the article that sure, here, let me pin this to the top of the room. So for those who want to see the graph of the social commerce growth in China, starting in about 2019, where it was about 50 billion, it's now at about 420 billion for 2022, and is projected to be, and right in line with the graph. It's not like a dramatic change in the graph. 2023 should see over 500 billion. The
Okay,
executive,
Tyler, US GDP is 20 trillion, China's 14.7 trillion, and out of 14.7 trillion, 3 billion is social commerce.
no, 500 billion.
Five.
I'm just curious, won't Amazon be competing with Alibaba for live stream? Yes, for So sure. they'll have a equal split in the market share. How will it go? Like, how will they split it? Amazon's going to be more dominant in the. It depends. Alibaba has a head start because they've been doing it.
Amazon won't make any money in China. It's like not going to happen. The U.S. companies will not make money in China. Like, just won't happen.
I'm referring to the domestic in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
each
the Amazon,
each
yeah.
side
So
will
the
do better in their own domestic
yeah,
markets,
sure, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So they could dominate the U.S. if
and
they want. UK,
and right, and notably, Alibaba has a head start. So Wayne Purbu, the executive responsible for Amazon Live, said, "quote unquote, live stream shopping is the future of retail." So I think that means Amazon. When somebody makes a statement that simple, they're making a very strong point. That's a uniquely rare, simple quote from a tech executive. Live stream shopping is the future of retail. Well, Amazon is kind of focused on the future of retail, you could say. And so I think they're going to continue to focus on live stream shopping over there at Amazon because, as I said, they have to. They don't have a choice. If they believe the future is live stream shopping, they can't risk losing that to YouTube or Instagram or anybody else. Quote, we know that video is a driving force in customer purchases. We know that when customers are on Amazon, they are already in shopping mode, so we wanted to lean into that. So get ready for live streams on Amazon pages. When you go to buy something, you do a search, you're going to see a whole bunch of different people selling the products you're looking for, and you'll have cute little live buttons on the ones that are live that you can then click on and watch them sell you that product live, and you can chat with them in real time. They have to do that experience because that's what's happening in Asia. They already know that, and they already know. More importantly, when you go to an Amazon search and when you see the item that you want, they see you leave and go over to YouTube and watch somebody unpack it and talk about it in a very descriptive way and analyze that thing, in every possible way, which they currently don't offer in the US. They just show you 5 little stock image photos of the thing, which is just a
It's
dreadfully.
such an open market in the US. I'm just curious. It may be like an open market for things like Nicholas's Veris and stuff, because you doesn't have this. This is going to be about individuals creating a community
Bingo.
that they build,
Yep.
right? That
Yep.
is trusted, right? So you find a community that says, you know what, I love, because I remember the people that were able to sell the most, uh, um, you know, headphones or the best cameras, for example, right at Best Buy. And this, is, just as an analog, um, are the passionate individuals that cared about it, lived it, didn't mind, like just spent hours with the customer about their passion. They showed their photographs, etc. They were always the employees that were able to convince people to buy the camera, which is a commodity product, from Best Buy and not everywhere else. And now they have, like, they're basically 1,000 people across the US in a community really good at what they're doing, care about it, genuinely care about it. And if they can get the supply, which can easily, the supply chains are fairly distributed now, because they'll, people will just go to the supply chains and they'll be authentic and they get reviews. And if they have these platforms, this could be a whole different, that could be a use case for some of
This
the things
is
that
it.
Varus has been talking about, Nicholas.
So this is exactly it. This is what we've been talking about. Which, if you look at my avatar, PTR, or whatever you call it, and you look at my Twitter feed, we talk about community currencies, and it's and my last tweet was saying, "What's in a name?" Well, a brand and a community, an identity is what unites people. And the best exemplar of that is the union movement. And I've been working with the union, and we are launching with a union. And we're going to show people that just like you have collective bargaining, this union has 150,000 members. Well, those 150,000 members have a lot of value in that community. They're bus drivers and transit union workers. But ultimately, it illustrates the fact that you are the consumer and you are the product, and you have a way to interact with the next version of the web, which is open, is not gated through the people that own your consciousness currently: Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple to a large extent as well. And that consciousness that they own is the appeal to simplicity, as we talked about, and that's why the user interface needs to be all these better, and it's going to evolve. But essentially the brands and their fans and the influencers who genuinely care about those products will become, the signal will become more and more clear, and the ability for the brands to mutualize their community currency, their Starbucks, with their community, and to allow their community to be part of the payments processing and be part of the buy now, pay later in terms of credit provision to their peers, is the way that the market goes in future. It's one way that the web can go in the future, that enables people to be part owner of the products because they are part of the value chain, and the supply chains effectively are in place because you've got the postal service, and Amazon will still be a big part of this because they are the fulfillment engine. But there will be many people who say, well, we could have our stuff in warehouses, and as the technology gets better, you have a network that is direct to consumer for brands, and brands that you approve of and that you want to get behind, and communities that you want to participate in, and you will have many communities which you participate in. So that's the vision of the next version of the web. You should not need the intermediaries.
And
Have you got 2 minutes, Tyler? Because I want to share an example that would just—it's only 2 minutes on
Sure.
this. Yeah, yeah. So here's it's from an analog old world, but these kind of connections actually I find interesting because I don't understand where the world's going to go with these new technologies, but I just know that there's just so much more now. But let me give you a little example. We had, like, at Best Buy, we were getting into all these networks, right? We were trying to listen to customers, etc. So we had a moms network that was set up by Julie Gilbert, who started this women's leadership movement across the company, and she started creating these local workshops, right? Local, with the store employees, physical workshops with frontline store employees and moms. Okay, and these employees would, like, feel part of this. It's kind of the women's leadership forum, and they would, like, pull together these little workshops and get input from these customers who are moms about products that they wanted to do. And at that time, I was, uh, uh, running the exclusive brands business, which was also out of China, which is a $5 billion business that, things that are made in China and sort of semi-designed in China, and we would sell them in the US. So we connected, my teams, we connected with these networks that were growing and said, look, why don't we listen to these moms and create some simple products that they want, right? That they care about. So give you a simple example, like simple stuff, right? This is like simple little DVD players and simple products in the back of that the moms wanted to use in the back of the SUV or the back of the car, or the kids are doing it, and the product just needed to be waterproofed and, a little bit of really cool design, bit of plastic. The remote can't get lost, so you can put it inside, right? So the teams in China, or the Chinese design team, would have them work with these networks down there, and then they'd produce these products, like, literally from that input, right? Because we had the whole supply chain sitting in there, right? And you produce this very simple product. In China, they make it in 2 seconds, right? There's no problem. They had the whole thing and the design, everything. These things were number one selling SKU for portable DVDs. Number one selling SKU, right? Own brand. So the point I'm saying is that what you're saying is now you just have all the tools, right? We didn't have any of the tools. It's all like manual, right? You just talk physically, people talking to each other, etc. But now
That's
you can
exactly
just,
right. Now,
yeah,
if you imagine,
exactly.
now you've got coherence between the financial field, what people can afford. You've got coherence in the data between the medical field, in terms of insurance, and you've got all of this information. That's why I'm saying we are moving into a world of perfect information, and that perfect information will either be owned by the nation state, and you'll live in essentially an environment that's controlled by the state, and they have oversight of all that perfect information, or you reside in the world where, as we know, that there is perfect information and it's held by Google and Facebook and, well, I would say more Google and Apple, Microsoft. They have the best repositories, but those are notionally protected, but they are subject to laws that are made by the laws of the land, and that is elected by, create law that's created by politicians that are spending 3.1 billion dollars in lobbying. So the whole system is connected through every layer, and that there are many vested interests that want to protect their business, the financial business, the advertising business. When I say advertising business, Google and Apple and Amazon and Facebook are advertising businesses, and they're just selling the information that they're garnering from your activities. And so the third option is that you cohere all that data and that you own all that information and you combine it with others and you have a data union essentially. But that data union needs to be private and yet provable. And that's what zero knowledge proofs enable. So now everybody can cohere all of their information for themselves and effectively put it into a network where it is their universal basic income because they're a consumer and they're also an advocate. And so that's how the whole idea of the economy of me and we emerges, where you have this much closer relationship between um, brands and their fans and their consumers and their supply chains and their value chains. And it's a new form of value that emerges that powers the next version of the internet. That's the vision, and that's what all of the math and all of these amazing tools enable. And you get accurate information that is private but provable, right? And that's extremely valuable. That you can prove anything in the world with a set of proofs that you can just respond to questions or give answers that give you access to better and better offers because you're embedded in that network economy or in that community. You are part of something, and that creates a lot of social cohesion too.
Yes, and I want to agree with Nicholas completely. I want to put things in perspective. According to all this data-driven charts, last year, U.S. social, no, global social commerce market was 584.9 billion. And this year, Chinese social commerce is 400 billion. Just put things in perspective. And US in 2021 was 84 billions. So economic wars, economic power is taking over the other form of power and governance as well. So I am just trying to combine these numbers and put things in perspective. Total China commerce market 400 billion, global market 584 billion.
for social commerce, but that makes sense because it started there 5 to 8 years before it even left there. So 3 years ago, they were 100% of the social commerce market. They were when it was three
The,
hundred
po-
billion.
the point being, it is the very beginning of a complete evolution in the way that we interact with the things that we buy, the goods and services. So it's really the physical world and the digital world coming together, and that's was what some people would consider that a form of a singularity, right? So as the physical world and the digital world come together and cohere into the information field, that information field gets better and better at surveilling you, but also giving you what you want when you want it, and making kismet happen, shall we say? And
Well,
so and that power is extremely dangerous if in the wrong hands, because you can decide to deplatform anyone for any reason, because if you can't be on the platform, you don't have a life. And so this is where we're going, and it's not the far future, and it's not Minority Report anymore. It's happening right now.
Right,
right.
the
Yes.
brands are a very fragile asset, right? Like, so the big brand. I mean, today, take the food brands right now, just relevant now. Look at all the food brands. They're taking them off the shelves in the UK here and putting own brands in, right? Because people can't afford the extra margin on your baked beans that says Heinz, right? And whatever. But the brands were built, like you said, Nicholas, and many people here have said, like the brands are built based on a set of that you that there are 100 things out there, and you want to trust one thing, and that trust is based on what you believe other people have said about it, behaved, felt about it, think, say, feel, do. That's what people have felt about a brand, and that's what they do. Now what's interesting is that that's all it is. So it's just an aggregation of a whole bunch of word of mouths, if you like, with each other, people saying things about it, people behaving with it, people buying it, people doing whatever, people throwing
Yeah,
ads at you,
that's called
people throwing ads
consensus.
at
That's
you,
called
right?
social consensus. Social consensus creates truth. Truth is just what people have agreed upon, right? And they've agreed upon that beans means Heinz, right? That's what they agreed
Right.
upon.
And it used to be that those brands, so just why I'm passionate about this topic, because I think you're on your platform, or your that kind of framework you're talking about, which I've been finally is clicked in my head that this is, anyway, it's just I'm learning something. But here's what is interesting is that um, the social credit that you're getting, the reputation that you're getting, is very, very fragile now, right, for these guys, because they used to be able to control the whole narrative very, very simply, right? You sponsor a good player and the player behaves really well on tennis, and Nike's got a good brand. Okay, now, you don't know how that player is going to behave. You don't know how that player is going to behave on the internet. Maybe that player wants to build their own brand, which you see the guy who played in tennis in Wimbledon yesterday, the guy, Fritz, I think is his name. He played Nadal, right? And if you tweet the screenshot to the family, it was like Instagram like family, right? The parents with their little branded hats, and it's just like literally a photo. It was like that's what they were doing, and and they had a Nike sponsorship as well. That's a very, very shaky sponsorship for Nike, right? Very shaky, right? They're the old brand guys, they're reliable people, so they can't control that right now, and it's very fragile. If you look at their I mean, if you look at their stock price, how much of it is brand equity? It's a large amount of it is brand equity, other than pure sales, and they look at it, but it's the margins are all brand equity. So this is a very crucial time for some amazing entrepreneurs to come in and use some of these platforms and build kind of new brand. And I'm not talking about going in and starting to flip NFTs on just and go into a whole different. Fine, use some of the technology, but the technology is secondary to the fact that there's a discontinuity here, which is what you've been talking about, Nicholas. Sorry,
Okay.
I'll shut up now.
No problem at all.
I'm excited that you're excited, and it is good because people are seeing it. Like we won this Fidelity Award of Innovation from the Center for Advanced Technology, and so people are seeing it. And what they can't believe is that it's good for everybody, except for those people that happen to have set themselves up to own network effects that should be network economies. That's all we need to move to. And we had this, the other day when I was sort of skidding to the end of my tether, and I was just saying, look, we are the product, and we can own the product, and we can have companies that we support because we like what they do and we like the way that they do it, and we like their values, and we're part of those values, and we're part of those communities because we have a place on the balance sheet through their branded currency. Now, those things have existed for a long time. They're called loyalty and points and coupons. These are all forms of incentives that are moving into the new world. So you can think of those as pseudo currencies that are really going to become the brand equity that will become a live, tradable way to acquire customers and retain customers and to create lifetime value between the brands and the consumers and also the financiers. So it's a giant upgrade to the model that we're operating under. And it's all could be owned by us because the hallmark of the right projects is that there are no corporations or VCs or ICOs or anything else. It's just software that enables us to do this. It's public infrastructure. It's like the light bulb. It's not designed to be a replacement for the dollar. It's designed to be infrastructure that we can all use, build tools and low code that we can just API into our existing world.
Call me a cynic, Nicholas and Cal. Call me a cynic, but I did wonder when the whole news broke about Tesco's discontinuing their conversation with Heinz, etc. I did wonder who and why this is happening, who's benefiting from this and why, and whether Tesco, because Tesco has always had a great relationship with the brands and the companies because they've been the biggest retailers, and so therefore they can command the price and the profit margin that they get. And here we are in a very, very difficult situation where everything's so expensive and consumers can't afford these things. So whether consumers had stopped buying those things and gone for the more no-name brands, or there was really a squeeze and Tesco didn't want to, had to back down because there was a squeeze the brands were putting on. But something struck me as a little bit unfamiliar there because there were these products in other supermarkets too, Sainsbury's and Waitrose and wherever. And I just question, who's really fighting for the little person like me, who people who are struggling to make ends meet. It's a thought, isn't it?
The competition's doing that for you, right? So we have 4 supermarkets in the UK. There's Aldi that just killing it with its prices, right? Aldi and Lidl are killing it with their prices. They're giving really, really low prices. Most of their stuff is own brand. They sell a few other brands. They have to sell a few other brands because that's how consumers work. Some people, you got a whole family. One person in the family requires one brand, right? So you can't all just move into an own brand. So Aldi, so they've got huge amount of competition. I don't think in the US, in the UK, there's kind of a monopolistic power. But so what they're doing in Tesco's situation is they're just negotiating. They're negotiating with the suppliers to say, hey, you guys, you got to give us some of the margin here. Because our customers have an alternative product as well. They'll buy that. In the end of the day, they'll want to give a choice. You get good, better, best. It's been like that for years. You give a good product, a better product, and a best product. You give these three things as a basic framework. So it gives the whole family an opportunity to have different things. Tesco's will end up with that brand back in there or another brand. They're just negotiating the price on that. So Pat, I don't think that anyone's trying to screw you. It's just the way competition works. There isn't a big conspiracy that the supermarkets is trying to screw the little person. I buy into some of the conspiracies we talk about, but sometimes it's just business and that's just capitalism. And it's not, they're not all trying to kill people. The competition sorts out the prices.
That's true, but don't you think Tesco is on the front foot now? They've got a huge reputation now because it's broadcast across TV that they are fighting the position against the big brands like Heinz.
Yeah, Tesco's is got competition. I mean, go to Aldi. Like, you'll find all your baked beans at a very good price.
Market image, market image.
But you also can't discount the genius of their club card system as well. Like, there's a lot of people that rely on
Yeah,
the
the club card system was done by a company called dunnhumby. And this is why I'm going to get Nicholas all wound up because he'll get it. So the club, yeah, sorry, Nicholas, I'm not gonna get you back on this, but I'm gonna say so. Humby, I know them very well. Edwina Dunn and Clive Humby are actually personal friends. They started this company that Tesco ended up owning them, um, uh, part owning them, and then they spread out. Now they took that same system and they took it to Kroger and they took it to other. It's basically mining consumer data like at a very very simple level, but that's all it's doing. It's not very sophisticated. It's not it's but it's good. It's implemented. It's good. It makes you feel like you're getting a good deal, but you just got to look at the average prices. In the end of the day, the people that have driven the price competition in the UK has not been the club card or anything else, but good old fashioned competition from the European Lidls and the Aldi, and they've driven the prices down. Everyone else, if you go now to a Tesco, so no, you go to Sainsbury's, you definitely see, compared to Aldi, compared to Aldi, compared to Aldi. So these guys, you just got to open up competition. You let them in. If you don't let the new players in, then you don't get this. But I appreciate the appreciation of Club Guard, but in the end of the day, it's like a Web 1.0 data
Exactly.
mining.
People. It shows that people respond to incentives, and the ability to target the people and to enable that incentive, what is known as the loyalty loop, is something incredibly valuable. And as there is less and less margin available, as we said, all productivity margin has been removed. There's only financial margin, and that financial margin was exacerbated because of zero interest rate policies. And now all of those savings will have to be made. And one of those savings was having cheap outsourced labor in large swathes of the consumer economy. So we've got many, many factors that are going on a micro level. I'm going to get my TNATW bingo on the macro level and at the meta level. And this is a question I had for the room, just diverting from this conversation a little bit, is obviously in everything we've been talking about is about markets and scarcity and people's reaction to them and people's ability to interface with the future. Does anyone have any information about what's going on in Sri Lanka with what I've seen these images of, society breaking down and people attacking each other because of the what seems to be a food shortage? Does anyone have any accurate information to share about that and insights?
We've covered headlines that the gas petrol has run out, and that they've just filed bankruptcy. They're talking with the World Bank about getting financing to dig themselves
And
out
they're
of
also planning to do a drive, right, Tyler? A drive to sort of raise
crowdfunding.
funds.
I don't know why they don't mint some NFTs and they could crowdsource. They could, fractional ownership of Sri Lanka. You could do all kinds of creative stuff.
No, 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 you can't do that. They did that with the port.
The Sri Lanka coin.
Well, they lost so much in that great big scandal with the Belt and Road thing.
Yeah, well, it was the big port. I
Tyler, they
think
need the great leader from El Salvador to go there and help them out, right? with his great visionary
Oh,
perspectives and
Oh
basically
my. Oh no.
experimenting with the entire nation. Sorry, I have a perspective on that. I think it's just so cruel.
they lost, but Sri Lanka lost its port to China as part of the terms of the Belt and Road and the infrastructure project of building that port, and then China started using it as a military base, and
And now China has its eye on Bangladesh to do the same.
now experts are surmising that Bangladesh could be next, and which happens to be part of the string of pearls, which is surrounding India, as Indians are very well aware that China did these infrastructure investment projects, debt diplomacy initiatives in a very strategic way that surrounds India geographically from um, basically all of Pakistan, top to bottom, and then down to Sri Lanka, and then over to Bangladesh, literally surrounding India in a way that scares the daylights out of India. So the while we were chatting, I had a thought that I never thought I would have, which is I came up with a reason why live shopping could. I came up with I came up with what I think could be the best argument for why live shopping might not stick in the West. Here's what I came up with, and I'm surprised I had this thought because it happened in China first, and one thing that's really never been made clear is precisely what one of the reasons why live shopping is so incredibly massive in China, in a way when it's not massive here at all. And I have to reveal how I came up with this idea. I went over to Amazon.com/live to see their live streaming channels, where they currently have about 20 live streamers at the moment, who are being paid, by the way, cash to do this. And I'm watching the live streamers, and I gotta say, it looks in many regards identical to what you'll see in live streaming in Asia. However, there's one very noticeable difference, which is these folks are incredibly boring that I'm watching on Amazon Live. And then it occurred to me that in Asia, the live stream shopping has an element of entertainment to it. And then I realized it's because Asia doesn't quite have a Hollywood other than maybe Seoul, and India has its own, but well, let's hold that aside. But East Asia, Southeast Asia, doesn't quite have a mecca of entertainment like Hollywood, like the West has. And so the live stream shoppers in Asia are filling a void of entertainment. And TikTok itself is filling a massive void of entertainment. And in the West, we have an absurd amount of professional content, uniquely so. And Europe absorbs that. And we export that to the rest of the world. America exports Hollywood to the rest of the world. It's a soft power issue. And it works tremendously well. However, there's a few places that don't import Hollywood. And China would be one of those places that do in a very, very limited capacity. And they do make their own content at a state level, and it's incredibly boring, generally. So social shopping was a way, a new form of entertainment that people can watch for hours. And these, as you've heard me say many, many times, every time we covered this topic every week for a year, I said, did I not, that the live stream shopping in China is wildly entertaining. And the people who are doing the selling are incredibly, remarkably Jim Carrey levels of charisma and enthusiasm and jovialism and ridiculousness. And it's you'll want to watch it for hours, as people do. And you'll end up buying the stuff because the people are insanely convincing and fun and engaging and whatnot. And then I'm watching the Amazon Live shoppers, and it's like watching Aunt Betty try and sell you her home knitted socks, and it's just incredibly banal.
Tyler, does this does this not already exist though? You have like the JML sort of shopping channels where people will sit them and watch them for hours and hours, and they sell, the slap chop, for instance, those kind of things. Does that exists in the US? So where did the two diverge between these two things?
I think Amazon needs to somehow tap into the really ridiculously entertaining folks to do this stuff, like the slap shop guy, and then people will sit there and watch that and buy that. But the folks that they have on there now that they're paying right now, I for the first time ever, I worried for the future of live shopping in the West when I was watching
Are
the live.
those channels still active in the US? Like over here, where I think we have on satellite, I think it's QVC or so. I don't watch any of them. But is there anything like that still in the US where you have whole channels dedicated to just a
Yes.
live stream of demoing products that you can buy, and then they have a counter of how many are sold? Is that still a thing in the US?
It is.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
But you know what I was wondering? Sorry, there's some microwaves making noise. Um, wouldn't that be a natural evolution though, as these, as Amazon brings more live shopping, is that just like any of these other social platforms, that the more it becomes popular, more people with more personality, to Tyler's point, would naturally gravitate towards this type of a platform, and a sales behavior or a more entertainment style, just like we had. In fact, there's a TV show now, I think, that one of the alumni of Saturday Night Live is doing, um, sort of making fun or parodying the old, that Carl's talking about, QVC style shopping networks. I would assume that like Amazon Live would attract those types of personalities to start selling and or becoming like the leader of those types of selling strategies.
I think a difference here, I just wanted to add one thing to this as well. And I threw in the chat that I'm working on developing a course through a business school in Italy, and they like have a whole section on this live shopping, which I found interesting because working through so many courses in the US, I have not seen a push at all. But something I just wanted to add through that is this whole idea of influencer marketing. I know, and I haven't watched like the likes of QVC in years, probably since the 90s, and I know they push celebrities. But I think for this now with millennials and the different shopping behaviors and TikTok, things like that, influences are like just people like us, that they're picking up on. Whereas QVC, I think, was focusing more on celebrities and things like that. But I find this interesting because, yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't participate in that at all. But again, I'm working on this course where they're like really pushing it. And I put in the chat, they use L'Oreal as an example that really was pushing that during COVID. I think back in 2020, they kind of launched this. But again, their push was in Europe and then in Asia, which is interesting, not necessarily here in the US.
I think
Just for
TikTok's a good shout.
reference,
Right?
Amazon
Sorry.
Live have been around since February 2019, by the way. So it has not been doing well since like 2 3 years already.
I'm just going to say, I think TikTok's probably the first avenue for the. I mean, if it doesn't get banned in the US, of course, given all the furore at the moment, um, if you want signs of the US adopting that kind of sales thing, it's probably going to come via TikTok, right? Not a US company, not Amazon. Amazon isn't sexy to the latest generation, but TikTok is, and the influencers on there is. I mean, they don't care if the app happens to be running on Chinese servers.
People go where the crowd is. Brands go where the people are. That's how it works.
Okay, so now we get to go into the tweets as we always do. And actually, there's a few new headlines just coming out. One that Meta, which owns the Quest headset, and they used to get a lot of criticism for forcing people to log in with their Facebook account, and some people don't have Facebook accounts. Maybe they got banned from Facebook, so how the hell are they supposed to use Quest? So now Meta Quest headsets will finally stop requiring a Facebook account. There you go. Next is Twitter starts testing new
Tyler,
co-tweet feature.
just
Yes.
sorry, Tyler, just quickly on this. I'm just going to say there is big talk of a Meta account coming
Yes.
sometime in sort of the next couple of quarters. So it won't be a Facebook account, it will be specifically a Meta account. And then that ties in with their whole Meta wallet and coin and everything else that they're planning on pushing through to the headset as well.
They gave
Twitter
up the wallet and they gave up their blockchain ambitions. They're only going to use dollars, they've said now.
Twitter starts testing new co-tweets feature that lets two accounts co-author a tweet. There you go. And simple as that. Reuters reporting right now that China's cyberspace administration says that data export review rules will become effective September 1st. So what are these new data export rules? It said that the rules requiring data exports to undergo scrutiny reviews would be effective September 1st, the first time it has given a start date for the new regulatory framework that will affect hundreds, if not thousands, of companies. The details of the new compulsory security review to be carried out, which will be used to determine whether large quantities of Chinese user data is in the possession of a private entity, can be sent overseas. So they don't want tech companies being able to take data about Chinese folks outside of China, basically. So if you have users in China, that data is going to have to stay in China, basically. So they're going to start enforcing that September 1st. I mean, pretty much as simple as that. The next is tech firms delete mass shooters' accounts, but it's not enough. This is from Bloomberg. Users quickly spread videos and images that analyze and celebrate mass shooters and risk inspiring future attacks because there's a bizarre phenomena of human psychology that it inspires some deranged folks to mimic this due to they're seeking attention or whatever, and people get the footage and it goes viral naturally, and the networks are trying to shut the shit down, and they're told by government agencies and experts, and we need to plug the leaks, but people keep sharing the shit.
So I'm kind of interesting on the interesting part on that is why, in a way, why I think it should be shared. So various different people can do their research and kind of figure out the mindset of what triggers this. So if they're going to pull it down, should they enable, I don't know, maybe have a plugin for researchers to go in and analyze kind of the mindset, before what happened or their whole journey as to what got them there.
Yeah, I mean, you get a whole, like with the latest, what was that latest mass shooting? The guy who
In
I now see
Chicago.
the
The guy
Chicago
who,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
now
yeah, he
there's
was.
there's an amazing amount of social investigation into every aspect of his short life. It's almost like social journalism in a weird way, like how and it gets Reddit becomes kind of the default place where every aspect of the person's findable, every crumb is kind of analyzed, and it's a really wild social journalism about the details of why the person did this. Because that's the weird thing is in instances like this, if the person doesn't have a manifesto, then everyone's left with this mystery as to what was their motivation, and that's part of human psychology as well, is trying to solve for the why, and you get entire communities of people online trying to solve it like it's a murder mystery or something. Anywho, so Katerina found one that Harvard doctor discovers that drinking sugary drinks increases your risk of liver cancer by what percent?
By 7%.
17.
40.
30.
You're all wrong. It's 73%.
I had the seven part right.
That's a seven. But well,
But
so did Carl. Yeah,
context with this is that's huge.
I'll share with
70.
Carl. I like it.
Harvard discovers drinking soda, sugary soda drinks increases your risk of liver cancer by 73%.
Well,
So
in that
take,
case, my liver is going to be in great health for a very long time.
and a company called ULife, spelled YU Life, picks up $120 million at near unicorn valuation for gamified life insurance, where they work with a lot of big companies like Land Rover and Capital One, and they sell life insurance to all of the employees, and they get a discount on the rate of the life insurance the more they engage with the app. And the app sells, or what's the word I'm looking for? Offers deals on wellness services, which they obviously get a commission on. So the more that you engage with the app, the lower your life insurance, and the more they make. So the more they make from you, the less they charge you.
This gives me the googlies.
And now they're going
Hey
into their
Tyler,
app.
which firm was that? I was off a bit, but is that Vita? Which
It's
firm
called
was that?
ULife,
Oh,
YULIFE.
okay. There's one in the UK called Vitality.
There
Carl
is,
might
yeah, I
know
was
it.
going to mention that.
Others, yeah, they do something similar. They give you an Apple Watch, and
Yep.
then they collect your Apple Watch. If you use it, no, with the Apple Watch, they're not collecting the data yet. But the fact that you get the Apple Watch and then you kind of have that, and then they also look at how many times you go to the gym. They give you a discount to a gym, and you do all that, and then it lowers your life insurance. So these things are starting off, but again, it's creepy, as somebody said there.
I actually looked into that recently, Cal, specifically Vitality, because it was offered through the company that I work for. And you get the Apple Watch, you get the latest version 7, and the price of the watch is basically it comes down and down and down and down to where you essentially get it for free in air quotes. The more activity that you do while using said Apple Watch, and then they then collect the data as you were saying, Cal, and they know how often you're going to the gym and how often you're doing certain things. They had real issues not too long ago. I think it was 5 or 8 years ago about their data collection policies and their privacies and what they were doing with it. So this, I don't know. Yeah, gives me the googlies.
Okay, so Carl found a really cool video put out by a team member at Shopify about an upcoming API for Apple called Apple's Room Plan API, which allows you to take your phone or future VR headset and convert your any room in your house or any room in your office or any room anywhere into a very believably clean, empty room. And you kind of have to see this video to understand it. So if you click on the link at the top of the Clubhouse room, it will take you to the Tech News Twitter account where I just retweeted Carl's tweet, and you can see this little video. Is it a YouTube video? Can I share that to the top of the room? I can't. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't think it's YouTube. I think it's uploaded directly by the account. The account that I retweeted is one of their developers, the Shopify developers who are working on this. Yeah, and the room plan is part of the ever increasingly impressive AR kit offering from Apple. You need a LiDAR equipped phone, which is anything past an 11, I believe, to use it. But yeah, as Tyler was saying, you can slowly scan a room and it will map out all of the corners, so the edges of the room where the walls meet the ceiling, and then where door frames are, and then where windows are. And what you don't see in the video, Tyler, because that clip, and whoever's going to whoever clicks on it will see it. It gets rid of all the furniture, so it maps out the room and then replaces it with a blank canvas for you then to import content, because this is for Shopify, and what they want is they want you to load in digital content for you to then trial and then buy through their platform. What you don't see is actually that the room plan is able to analyze and categorize furniture as well. So it will actually recognize your chair and the plant and bookcases and tables and stuff like that, and you can actually map most of your furniture out in your room, which is really, really cool. They're doing some pretty sweet stuff.
Okay, next up from Saudamini that I'm retweeting is a story from the BBC. It says 3 Michael Jackson songs have been removed from Spotify and YouTube. Why would 3 Michael Jackson songs be removed from YouTube and Spotify? Fans claim that the songs contain fake vocals.
Wait, what?
And
The,
he is not alive to verify it.
they have since been subject of a court case brought by a fan who claims the vocals are not by Michael Jackson but by somebody else, a session singer. Sony Music and Jackson's estate said their removal from streaming sites had nothing to do with their authenticity. In a statement, they described the action as the simplest and best way to move beyond the conversation associated with these tracks once and for all. The focus remains where it belongs, on the exciting new and existing projects celebrating Michael Jackson's legacy, blah, blah, blah. It's a really, really weird... The official
It,
story is that Jackson wrote and recorded the songs with the production team of Edward Casio and James Porte in 2007, yet rumors persisted that the vocals were provided by an American singer named Jason Malachi, who apparently took credit for them in 2011 Facebook post. Then, in 2014, Michael Jackson's fan named Vera Sorova filed a class action lawsuit against Casio and Porte, the two producers, and Sony Music, and Jackson's estate. She accused them all of selling her and others a product that had been misrepresented. Separately, she accused the producers of conducting an elaborate artistic fraud when they sold the tracks to Jackson's estate for millions of dollars. Jackson's estate and Sony denied the allegations. An appeals court ultimately ruled in their favor, removing them from the lawsuit. That's wild. So apparently, these were songs that were never put out while he was alive, and they were kind of half done at the time of his death. And the producers then, I'm putting dots together here, contacted the family and said, "Oh, by the way, we have a couple of his songs that you might be interested in. Would you like to buy them?" And then this fan is saying, "Oh, it sounds like you hired a Michael Jackson sound-alike to finish those songs, and part of that singing isn't actually him, but the family, the estate, purchased those songs and then released them, claiming that it's Michael Jackson material," which of course they would do because they can make a ton of money doing that. So they happily paid whatever the producers were asking for, which was a penny on the dollar of what they knew they could sell those songs to the public for. And then the fan says, "Wait a minute, you're selling everybody fake stuff." That's wild.
I can't wait for auto-tune software to become sentient and just yoink the past 30 years of worldwide music off the shelves through copyright
I
and
was
things like
with a
this.
similar thing like deep fakes, sound fakes, voice fakes of Michael Jackson in future.
That's the thing. I mean, you should be able to get a voice print of whoever the fake person is and find out if it is or isn't Michael Jackson. But then you could also make a voice print of Jackson and have them finish the song. So, and then you could say that it's partly an augmented version of Jackson based on Jackson, not another singer. So that anyway, and if you're public about that, then there's nothing the fans could do. You could say this is a, and then matter of fact, you would embrace it as an amazing new marketing scheme of like, listen to this Michael Jackson song that's all Jackson and an AI supported version of Jackson, just like Val Kilmer in the latest Top Gun movie.
Tyler, again, you're predicting a future trend. We will see AI generated music
Oh,
off of
guaranteed.
Michael
You're,
Jackson. Yes.
every big artist has hundreds of unfinished songs that their benefactors or heirs will inherit. And they will be very tempted, many of them, to finish those songs with the help of a new technology that I might be working on, and and then release those songs for all kinds of crazy money. Yeah, of course that's going to happen. Absolutely, we're going to have hundreds of new Bob Marley songs and Bob Dylan songs and you name it.
Beatles.
Likely
The thing
Beatles
is,
songs as well.
there are computer labs in multiple universities right here in Boston that are working on that, and we're seeing production live on local radios. So yeah, it's not that they are going to happen; they're happening now. They just need to fine tune it because it does again sound a little bit robotic.
Okay, next up is who found this one? Saudamini found this one from BBC. The title says How TikTok is Fueling Dreams of Wealth in the Arab World. The video sharing app TikTok is making some Arab youth rich, but for others, the dream is way out of reach. Hmm. You can create $10,000 a month from TikTok if you want, says the quote. It all depends on your followers and content.
Also depend on your phone service.
So there is the beginnings of, you know, the innovation, greed inspired innovation wave that is going to happen on TikTok. And as soon as they realize they can make a lot more by selling stuff through their accounts, then the live stream thing will happen in the will that wave will move westward through the Middle East and eventually reach our western shores. And did anyone else have a hot tweet that they wanted to share today? Because we're now approaching the end of the third hour.
I wasn't here yesterday. I'm actually still recovering from COVID. But did you guys cover, it came out on the 6th, so yesterday, did you cover the new lockdown mode being released by Apple?
Yes.
Right, then I will shut up.
Okay.
Did you get COVID?
Yes.
Recovering.
Get
Oh
well
my
soon.
God.
And
So
I don't know if you guys covered Elon Musk's latest uh, offspring, the twins.
we did cover that.
We did.
Okay.
The
Did you
Springham
cover
might have seen the twins.
the Mongo DB announcement about fully encrypted search?
No, but
I
I
think
think
that might be the most significant thing I've seen all week.
go for
The
it.
article came out. I'm driving, so I can't go and find the article. I'm sorry, but it's out there. MongoDB is released, I think, on Tuesday. Reference implementation, open source, that allows for high-speed, production-level, large-scale database search without decrypting the data.
Yeah,
Which I work on a project called Baseline Dash Protocol, where we
you're deep in the matrix. Hold on. Can you mute him?
coordination of
Okay, John.
can you hear
Hold
me
on.
okay?
Barely.
No, you're in the matrix.
I've got the article here from Wired. It came out
Oh,
today. It says a long-awaited defense against data leaks may have finally arrived. MongoDB claims its new queryable encryption lets users search their databases while sensitive data stays encrypted, and it's open source. After years of data breaches, leaks, and hacks, leaving the world desperate for tools to stem the illicit flow of sensitive personal data, a key advance has appeared on the horizon. with MongoDB announcing the queryable encryption feature that will allow data. And the point is, MongoDB is a very popular database solution for a lot of big apps. And so this ostensibly would protect the data um, from being leaked because it's encrypted.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge thing. They're not using zero knowledge cryptography in that case, but when you combine that with zero knowledge cryptography, things like Baseline Protocol, which is an open source standards body that's working on, yeah, multi-party automation. Imagine like where you have to like I have in the project I'm working on, this thing called TreeTrunk.io. We have 14 web services running, to make that thing work. Five of them at least have to orchestrate so far as like service number three has to know that service one and two did a thing and that those things did it correctly. Well, that means a lot of data is getting passed between these web services, which creeps me out. It creeps me out that I have to even expose that data to those web services, but then the web services themselves are exposing it to each other, and you just have a goulash of data breach opportunities. It's a huge threat surface. So the more we can orchestrate systems to do what they're supposed to do, kind of Kafka style, without having to expose the clear text of the information, either through ZK or through this new thing with Mongo, it's huge. It's monstrous.
Okay. And Saudamini found one that Apple Watch may get a fingerprint sensor in the future, according to a patent, and that cyberbullying will attract up to 1 year jail time in Japan. Japan's rules.
Tyler,
Yes.
there is an interesting one that just came out 26 minutes ago that I tweeted. And it's like Bitcoin might be gearing up for a mini little black swan event like Mount Gox, because there is the fact that Mount Gox is coming forward now that they have to settle the case from the exchange that went down about 7 years ago or so. It was whatever the details are on that. I don't really want to go into the Mount Gox thing, but basically it's 150,000 BTC that may actually be cashed out. So they're saying that could potentially make a second black swan event in the Bitcoin space, similar to Mount Gox. I just tweeted it out. I put my eyes on it the same way I normally do, and I tagged Ben too, so I'm sure he could scan it if he's there, if he's not, or Nicholas if he sees it, because it's very interesting to say the least.
What? Give it one more attempt to.
Okay, I open it as I have it in front of me. Hopefully the phone doesn't drop on me. But basically, it just Bitcoin faces a Mount Gox quote unquote black swan as trustee prepares to unlock 150,000 BTC from Cointelegraph. It says the prospect of a rumored 150,000 BTC flooding the market gets real as Mount Gox creditors choose how much money to receive in cash, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash. It faces a new selling threat in the near future as users of the defunct exchange prepare to get their BTC back. And that was from fresh correspondence from today from attorney Nobuaki Kobayashi, appointed trustee in the Mt. Gox rehabilitation process, confirmed that he was preparing to make repayments to the account holders.
So there'll be a whole bunch of potential sellers simultaneously.
Yeah, basically.
So that could
I said
that could force it down.
I would probably say it could force it down to like 14,000, 14,500.
Yeah.
Because whatever the people have, they may choose. Well, it's just going to put an influx of extra BTC. And then clearly at that point, it'll be like those that have limit orders in to catch it on the downtrend. I think this would probably be like the last leg in it going down. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this, everything I'm researching says that it's going to go a little bit deeper, but to get your bags ready, not financial advice, but that it could go as low as 14,000, but then be prepared because that after that there's nothing really more that'll stop it to hold it down. So just be aware this is just that event that there's one or two events that people are still in the space talking about on the Reddits and on the back channels where people have been for like 8 years, 9 years. So because most of the people I follow and I do my research with are not in the active mainstream of the people that are involved from the 17, 18. They're more from 13 and 14 and before. So it'd be interesting to see what this impact has because this just came out right now.
Okay. All right. So I think
Tyler,
that.
I don't have a tweet, but I want to introduce you to somebody that's on the stage right now. We met 20 years ago. We worked together. We launched a business. We raised some funding, and then our funding, just so that lesson for the startups, it was 2000. Do you remember this, John? We lost
Too
was
well.
it 15 to 20 million funding overnight, like within 3 or 4 weeks. So this man John is known to me for years. Surprising to see him here. Like, just it's kind of nice. And then later on at Best Buy, he came in and experimented with a whole. We started an incubator where people actually live. Employees live in a like a an incubator, like a living place, right? And we had a couple of spin outs from there, which we actually let them spin out. And so John kind of moved a lot of things, and he's doing a whole bunch of stuff now. But I think he's such a techie, and good to see him in this community. So welcome to this community, John. You should join this room. Yeah, I don't join
Thanks,
it that
Michelle.
often.
It's great to
Tyler
see
runs
you.
it every
Yeah,
day.
I will.
Tyler runs it every day now, and it's amazing.
What do you mean
It's a
you lost the 15 million? You went to Vegas with it?
No, no,
no.
no,
I was
We
just
no.
were.
going to say the
Like
same
they
thing.
took it back.
Well, no.
John will
We had
explain.
a term sheet, a handshake on the term sheet, April 2000. Abby Cohn starts selling her tech shares. What, like the 13th of April, 2000? I know these dates because they had an
Oh, we lost him again.
Couldn't hear you,
Yeah,
John.
that he.
Hey, it was
So
our chance to
basically,
become billionaires, Tyler.
yeah. Well, it was right at the
But we
moment that
went right at the top of the cycle. We were such
yeah,
idiots.
yeah.
John wasn't. I was.
That was precisely when the tech bubble popped in 2000. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's
I'm
just
reliving this, Cal. I must have a curse because we're raising $25 million for TreeTrunk.io. We just launched it in NFT NYC. The NFT world dropped 90%. And
oh
Wow.
shit, John. John, what's going on? What's going? But
I
you've
got
done a
bad
whole bunch of
timing
sin. You've
karma.
done a whole bunch of things since. You're good, right?
Yeah, he's been bouncing around for sure. I know Tree Trunk. That's cool.
No, Tree Trunk's great. I was just on an interview with about Tree Trunk. It's really I almost want to make some news by removing NFTs from everything that the Tree Trunk has out there content wise, and really saying, look, it's about creative commerce. NFTs are bullshit. They've always had. I don't like the idea of making somebody else your liquidity stooge on a piece of art, and convincing somebody that this digital sales receipt is a piece of art, which it's not, and then convincing you that Cal's going to buy it from you for more later. Terrible business. I'm glad for the people that got rich quick, but there are a lot of people that are going to get poor quicker. And we've been selling these things to people that can't afford to lose. And I hate it. Tree trunk is more like cryptolithography, where you can buy the right to make copies of a thing and sell those copies. You're basically becoming a distributor, of signed numbered prints. And that business model allows an artist to get um, royalties streams from many people, uh, frictionlessly. And I like that better, but I like it in the same way I like Patreon. So I'd rather not talk about NFTs at all. And so I'm kind of glad the NFT market blew up. Now we can focus on creative commerce and helping artists and creators put food on the table.
Okay.
And
Very cool.
anyway, I just wanted to introduce you to John. I think he's if he keeps coming back, we get the we got to get some just people like John, on this new technology space where at the moment we have this kind of linear kind of we trash the people that are in it, and then we applaud the people that didn't get into it. The point is the Web3 came in, it's in there, it's the whole bunch of scammers are in there, we know, and they're leaving. There's a whole bunch of things going on. Bitcoin's got its own journey. And then you've got this genuine thing that, people like Nicholas and John are doing where they're trying to get to the next phase of this technology, and they're going to experiment their way into it where it's going to genuinely help. give access to people and give models to people and build new types of business models. And I think 5-6 years from now, we're going to have a whole different set of players that are going to emerge. And it's always good to watch these spaces. We've seen it happen again and again. Tyler, you've seen it about 15 cycles like this, right? So
Yeah.
it's just great to have good, smart people discussing it here. But nice to see you, John.
I will say, thanks, Cal. I will say, if you don't mind, I'll make.
We can't hear you, man.
Sorry about that.
I can't hear you. Does anybody else hear him?
No, we
Nope.
can't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he's
Try
gone.
again next time. Join us
No,
again
he's
next
like
time,
in
John.
He's
Yeah,
several
he's
Meg,
gone.
different layers
join
He's
us.
now.
gone into his own tree trunk. Hey, hey, John, we can't hear you. We got to close the room soon. Sorry about that. See, hey, come join. Tyler's does this every day.
Yep. I think
Uh,
Ben is running a room now on how to grow and preserve your own food. I think it's still running now. So for those who are interested, just click on the room that I pin on top and see you there.
Very cool. Thank you. Good to see you, Cal.
cool. Nice being here.
Yeah.